and or watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksi kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Numa. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. We have lots to talk about today. It was shaping up to be a pretty standard episode. One transfer in the bag, and then a little bit of transfer drama in terms of a collapse transfer to talk about. That then suddenly last night the bomb burst. We have a special guest lined up. Nima Tavallaey is hopefully joining us as our episode continues. However, he is not yet here, so I am not 100% sure whether or not he will be able to join us. I haven't heard from him in a bit, but hopefully he will join us during the course of the episode to talk about the bomb that burst last night, as Fabrizio Romano revealed that Tammy Abraham is set to join Beşiktaş on permanent transfer from AS Roma. And we're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about David Jurásek, and we're here to talk about the collapsed Osayi-Samuel transfer and what that might mean for the right back position going forward. But before that, I am going to introduce my co-hosts, of course, as always, Sinan Schwarting and Kartal Ur. Guys, how are we feeling today? It's been a quiet June, but now July is peeking around the corner, and things. Yeah, it's still June, but July is peeking around the corner, like I said, Katel, and things are heating up now, right? Sinan, let's get to you first. Thoughts on all these last-minute developments over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say that these guys definitely watched the podcast since they gave us our first official transfer on my birthday. I was hyped. A left back, clearly a huge need given we were letting go of a guy who's been really good for us and had a pretty decent season all around. So it was in a way it was a real pressing need that they checked out. They checked that box real quick. On what was it, Friday, right? Yeah, that was excellent. That got me excited, and you kind of hoped, okay, now we've got the ball rolling. Let's get some more of these things coming in. And sure enough, yeah, now I'm feeling pretty good. How about you, Karta?
Yeah, it's been a very exciting few days, to say the least, man. Constantly refreshing the phone to see what's happening now. It's a very exciting time of year, but also it can be quite a stressful time of year as well. You just want to get the moves in quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like a drug as well. See when you get that dopamine hit of some fresh transfer news.
Yeah, now I need more.
See, every time you refresh and there's nothing new. If you feel like a junkie, man, it's like not had a hit. That's what I feel,
Yeah. Especially because we got Jurasek, and then we got Tammy Abraham, which was super exciting, and then we also whoops, okay, sorry, take that back. We almost had a right back also. So exactly. It's been the hits keep coming, but yeah, then we took a hit back, sadly. What is that sound? But yeah, so I mean, it was just a flurry of news. And now it's like, okay, what's next? We need a right back, right? We need a winger.
It's turning into a bit of a drama as well, especially the Osayi-Samuel stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about more in detail soon. I mean, that is really turning into a bit of a family drama with the recent news,
Yeah.
So I need some information on this. So now Osayi-Samuel is basically kind of like my dad fucked this up for me. Like he didn't want him to do any of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently according to Muratuzan, Osayi-Samuel was like blown up. Ahmed Serdar Ada's phone.
Well, let's go through this properly though. Gato, let's not start at the end, right? Let's start at the beginning.
We'll go back to the start then. So I believe it was Thursday or Friday where the news broke.
Alongside with the Jurasek news, essentially the Jurasek news.
Pretty much, broke. Yeah. It was like an hour later.
So it kind of broke at the same time that we made an agreement to sign David Jurásek on loan from Benfica. It was a left back that's played for it was the Red Star, wasn't it? Red Star and then Benfica.
No. Slavia Prague, and then he was out on loan from Benfica. He was out on loan to Germany to Hoffenheim. Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. The Slavia Prague, they have like a red and white kit as well, don't they? I think that's maybe why I was confused.
Yes, they do have a Pakchala red and white kits. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was confused with.
And I think they have a star on the logo too. So that
they do. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So the news broke that we'd agreed a deal to bring Jurasek on a 1 year loan with an option to buy, not an obligation. Which I believe it's 7 million is the regular option, but if we make it to the Champions League, it'll be 9 million, I believe. So that's an option to buy next year, not an obligation. In the same time, the news broke that we'd made an agreement with someone we've been linked with for a while, Osayi-Samuel, who of course has played for Fenerbahçe for the last 4.5 years, so is someone we're very familiar with. Right back. So Jurasek arrived, I believe it was Saturday afternoon, and then he arrived in Istanbul. And then even on the Beşiktaş stream, they announced on the club's official stream that Osayi-Samuel would be arriving in Istanbul about 11:30 Turkish time on Saturday evening. However, 5 minutes after the stream finishes, news comes out where Serdar Adil has been quoted as saying the Osayi-Samuel transfer has been paused due to last minute demands, like a last minute increase in demands from Osayi-Samuel's agent at the same time as his father. So I mean, I was pretty gutted about that because I thought we were getting two in one day, but after that we got news that the president was very annoyed. Serdar Adil was very annoyed that the deal's off altogether. And then yesterday evening, out of the blue, I'm doing the dishes. Well, I think I'm about to do the dishes looking at X or Twitter. And suddenly I see a tweet from one Fabrizio Romano saying that we've signed Tammy Abraham. I mean, at the same time, like, but the initial fee that was reported was 20 million, so I thought that was way too much. But at the same time, obviously, there's a lot of excitement as well that you feel. See when there's just a name comes out the blue. I mean, he was linked before, not very seriously, but he was linked before, and it was a while ago. So suddenly, just to hear from nothing, the guy had signed, that brings on a lot of excitement as well, along with some doubts, obviously, with his performance in the last few years and that big injury he had, of course, a few years ago. And that price tag as well, which the weird thing was, it was announced as 20 million by Romano on Twitter, but on Instagram, on his story, he posted that it was 15 million. So there was a lot of confusion at first to which was the correct fee. Is the more this has materialised today, we found out for sure that it's a 2 million loan fee and an obligation to buy for 13 million. So it is a 15 million euro fee is what's been reported for Tammy Abraham. Obviously, that's still a club record for us. It's a huge amount of money for us. I still have quite a lot of doubts about the transfer, but I'm excited as well. Like, I'm not overly keen on the move. I think for a wee bit more money we could have got promised David or Tolu. I would have been happier with them.
Let's talk about that in a bit, though, because we gotta get all that stuff out in the open. But before we do that, I do want to elaborate a little bit on a couple of things you said there. So Osayi-Samuel.
Yeah, we didn't finish the Osayi-Samuel story.
Yeah.
In that,
Yeah,
so
we didn't finish that.
There was some more.
This was after the Tammy. I was going chronologically.
Oh,
it was after the Tammy news.
You were going chronologically, but then you were starting with your thoughts on it already.
yeah.
So I needed to get your concentration here again. So let's finish.
Pull you back.
After the Tammy Abraham news yesterday, obviously, and then the fee was made clear today as well. This afternoon, we got news saying that Osayi-Samuel was saying that he wants to come, and it was him that made. Sorry, it wasn't him that made the demands. It was his dad. It had nothing to do about it. Nothing to do with him, which I find hard to believe, to be honest. It had nothing to do with him apparently, and he's been phoning Sada Adel, blowing up his phone saying I want to come. Allegedly, Sada Adel. Well, some reports are saying that he's just saying no, we're not interested. There's other reports saying that yes, you can come, but the money you'll be paid, the salary you receive, is going to be less than what we agreed on initially.
Mm-hmm.
So
which would be an ironic twist.
Yeah, and then obviously there's been some other exciting links as well. We've got as alternatives to Osayi, we've got Kyle Walker-Peters and Nelson Semedo as well. So that's a summary anyway of what's been going on over the course of the weekend.
We should flesh out maybe a little bit more about Osayi-Samuel.
Because we got some details, right? About
the agreed numbers were 1.7 million a year net guaranteed. So that our dear friend Riyad Sabunjoğlu had to frame it as 1.9 million because that's with the taxes. So 1.9 million, but 1.7 million net. And I think it was very deliberate on Yai's point to frame it as 1.9 because Fenerbahçe paid him 1.8 net. So just under 2 million in total. So I think in order, given his Fenerbahçe ties, I think in order to soften the blow for the Fenerbahçe fans a little bit, he didn't really want to say it or make it clear that Osayi was going to sign for us for less money. Because he's been, of course, demanding a lot of money on Fenerbahçe since last summer. He's been demanding close to 3 million euros a year to extend. Obviously, Fenerbahçe said no. We don't want to pay you that. You're not worth that to us. I mean, I think, paying 3 million a year for a fullback is pretty insane, but Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray do more insane stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me.
They like to do that.
So anyway, the initial agreement was for 3 years, 1.7 million guaranteed net, so 1.9 million, let's call it 1.9, and that was agreed. He was coming, he was on his way to the airport when his dad, as Kartal pointed out, phoned Seda Adala and said, no, we want to change it, we want more money, we want 1.5 million signing bonus, and we want a 4-year contract. So they wanted more annual wage, more than 1.9, and they wanted a signing bonus of 1.5 million, and then they wanted a 4-year contract. Now, Osayi-Samuel is 27 years old, so a 4-year contract is, it's not insane, I think, but it's on the edge of, do we want to do that? Especially with a fullback, especially with a player, they make the most miles in the game, they cover the most distance in the game, so maybe you want to be a little bit more careful with that. Also because what makes Osayi special, right? It's his physicality, it's his so that's something he'll probably, start losing over time a little bit. He's still in a good age right now, but where is he going to be in 4 years? So obviously, Beşiktaş said no.
Well, okay.
Adala was pissed, and he pulled the offer off the table, which now
I just want to make one real quick interjection here. We all agree that Osayi-Samuel is good enough to be a Beşiktaş player, right?
Of course, yeah. I think he is. I think he's an exciting player, man. See right backs that are just like up and down, very fast, strong, powerful, physical. His end product isn't very good, but I definitely think he is good enough to be a right back for sure, and I'd be happy with him. But
is he worth $2 million a year though, Cathal? Like, he's not that special.
It depends really, man, because we're not paying a transfer fee for him, so you can maybe say,
yeah, that's true.
Okay, we're paying this amount, which is inflated wages over 3 years, but the initial deal there was no signing on fee, no transfer fee, so probably would be better financially if we were to go and sign someone that was in contract of a similar quality, because you probably need to pay 4, 5, 6 million for a transfer fee for a player of that quality, plus their salary as well.
Yeah, but then, of course, you already mentioned it. Kyle Walker-Peters of Southampton, similar age, 28 years old, lots of Premier League experience, also a free agent, and also on Beşiktaş's radar. And apparently, Beşiktaş have offered him slightly higher wage than they offered Samuel. And right now, the signing on fee is what is currently being discussed and what's keeping him from signing on. But supposedly, I think who was it that reporting that maybe Catalyst Haber or something. So take it with a pinch of salt. But and I think, take a lot of these rumors. We're gonna discuss a lot of rumors today. Take a lot of them with a pinch of salt. The only 2 players we've signed so far are on the verge of signing, including Tammy Abraham. Those 2 came completely out of left field, weren't being reported. I think Abraham was, people were throwing some shit at the wall. He's one of those names that goes around. But I don't think any serious reporting was done on this. Nobody had a clue.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, we'd hear about the whole transfer saga. All the negotiations have started. Roma wants this much, but we're trying to get them into this. But it was just bam, out of left field, as you said. Or Beşiktaş have agreed a deal in principle to sign Tammy Abraham. So it was very unexpected, and to be honest, it's better that way, man. Like, see, when you just see it suddenly they were signing someone, it's very exciting. Whereas obviously it is exciting hearing about the process as well, but when it is done, like at that point, like you knew it was kind of happening anyway. But at this point, it was just sudden. Done.
Yeah, plus not to forget the vultures in Turkey.
I was literally about to say, because I think Tammy Abraham is almost the perfect profile of a guy who a squad, especially Fener, right? Because we know they're on the market for a striker, right? They'd suddenly find out, oh, he's actually available, at a moment like this. And they'll have heard the story that Roma was in a bit of a pinch financially, right? They needed to make that sale quickly. Supposedly they have to have it done by the end of the day today, right? Because of some deadline with their financial.
They have to be able to register a sale of 13 million or more, but how that is going to work exactly, I'm not sure, because we're buying him with an obligation to buy. Yeah, but I guess they can already book that because it's an obligation. So I suppose.
I'm guessing
we still get to push the money on in the books until next year. In fact, the reports are that we're going to pay the transfer fee over 5 years.
Yeah.
Someone was saying it's like a kind of interest-free finance scheme on buying like
Klarna or whatever you call it, right? Like that credit system that you're like, I'll pay now and pay over.
Yeah. You have that in the States too.
yeah. My wife was like suggesting I buy something with that. I was like, why? I can get it right now.
It's risky, man. If you start buying stuff with that kind of stuff, and then you have like 5-6 things running at the same time, and it's like, oh wait, that's you need to be careful with that kind of stuff.
It was like, yeah, exactly. I mean, because we have this weird shit with credit rating. So she was like, you could do that to bump your, if you just pay it on time, knowing you have the money. And I was like, I'm just gonna pay this shit now. I'm not worried about my credit.
To up your credit rating, okay.
Yeah. So you can play these little tricks, but no, I actually, it wasn't for me. Anyway, long story that we don't need to get into, but point being, however, knowing Fener is looking for a striker, right? They're being linked with Johnny Duran of Al Nassr.
Yeah, John Duran. Yeah.
John. Yeah, sorry. It's Jhon, which is a weird spelling, but that they would have found out. Oh, Tammy Abraham's available. I'm sure it's a much more affordable deal than what they're going to have to shell out for that guy. Given that Al Nassr paid huge
yeah,
amounts of money
like
recently.
John Duran, they paid 65 million for him, I think, and they're paying him 20 million a year or more. Al Nassr are so. Fener
No, whatever they're going to have to figure. Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Fener will loan him for a year, but making that permanent is probably not realistic for them. I mean, as well, I think if he has a good season at Fener, he'll probably go back to the Premier League or something, right?
It'll be their own version of the whole Osimhen thing. Granted, maybe they'll have more financial stakes in it if they actually buy him, but I mean, we'll see, right? I think, as you said, they'll probably have to loan him because I don't think they'll be able to afford it, and so
I mean,
it's probably going to be exactly the same thing, a temporary thing where, and again, right? You look at the sort of who's going to definitely make an impact in the Turkish Super League next year, right? There's sort of question marks around both of these guys, but I think you might even. I mean, I'm personally of a mind that I think Tammy Abraham's more of a sure thing at this stage in his career, right? Jean Duran obviously has much more upside, given he's only like 21.
No.
But Tammy Abraham. With Abraham, the question is he fully recovered from his injury?
Yes.
And can he kind of re-find another gear? And I think in a weird way he'd be sort of perfectly poised for it now, coming into a slightly obviously lower quality league than Serie A. He could
slightly.
There's a part of me that's like imagining him doing bits, in the Super League, and then there's obviously the other side of you where like we've been burned so many times.
I think for us personally, man, it's a big risk. Like make a record signing on a player that had a big injury a couple of years ago now, hasn't quite rebounded from that.
But how can he though? I mean. He's only had the one season to rebound from it, and he's mainly been, the second, third striker for.
Right, and that accounts for his
being a second
striker
stats doesn't mean he can't score goals, but I mean, look at Cenk Tosun for us. Was the understudy to.
But you need to.
Gomez,
but you also.
I'm
sure I sent you the stat earlier on.
Did he have 10 off the bench this last season?
Sorry.
What was that? Sorry.
He had 10 off the bench, right? This last season.
He had a very good cup campaign, but in the league, he only scored 3 goals, and he scored like once every 329 minutes, which it was not good.
Also gave 5 assists. Need to keep that in mind.
I think
so, the fact,
I think it's a different profile to be a team's main striker, where you're going to get X amount of service every match. I mean, of course, with Beşiktaş, that's a question mark, but ideally, we're going to have another winger out there, and we're going to be able to provide him with something. Jurasek sounds like a good profile as far as getting him the ball. I watched that interview Khan did. That was great, by the way.
Go check that out. My interview with David Jurásek.
Everyone check that out. It was great.
Jurasek.
It was great. And so, my understanding is he's sort of a similar profile to Masuaku as far as his weaknesses, right? He's like a little bit. He could be stronger in defense and stuff like that, but he obviously has. His strengths are greater, and he's younger, so he has far more upside. I mean, it seems like it seems like we did the right thing, like the perfect thing, in a way.
The main difference between Jurasek and Masuaku is Jurasek's doesn't have dodgy knees.
And he's 24, right? Shit.
And he's got a much better motor, man.
Yeah.
Supposedly he's very dynamic,
he's
very
much
fit.
Quicker, it seems. Yeah.
In fact, he even said in his interview with Beşiktaş, saying, "I don't know what tired means. I'm never tired. I'm always going to be running about." So that's exactly the kind of. See, when we're thinking about the fullbacks we wanted for this coming season, well, we wanted fast, dynamic.
Yeah, we were discussing that last season already, Kartal. We were.
We
were talking about that in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, the three of us, we all thought. I think actually last year, me and you were more harsh in Masuaku, whereas Sinan was saying he should stay, but there should at least be a backup, which never came. But I mean, it seems like crossing, Jurasek's supposedly a very good crosser.
We'll have to wait and see, of course, and judge for ourselves on that.
Obviously, we're not going to sit here and say we're not like those guys that say I've watched 7 games of him already. I know everything about the player. We've not watched them, but all the information that we have read is that he's a good crosser of the ball. He's very fit. He gets up and down that flank, which is very important in modern football. In terms of, I think from what I've read, his positional awareness is good and he's disciplined in that regard. But in terms of like defending one-on-one, he is quite prone to getting beaten by his man. Which, I mean, you're not going to sign a perfect fullback when you're as we don't have the money to sign perfect players.
Does that exist?
You have to be more shrewd and you have to find like a good fit, right, tactically.
Yeah.
But and you knowing that they're going to maybe have certain weaknesses that won't give them the dynamism to sort of play in multiple roles, in every different role you're going to need. But yeah, like you want someone who's going to perform optimally in the role you need them to perform in, and I think that's what we've done, right? I think Ole has clearly had he's put his a message out for what he needs, and I think we've given him exactly that. From what I can tell.
I mean, I think you can tell that these transfers are being vetted, man.
Yeah. But anyway, back to my original thought. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
What I feel is Jurasek. There's some question marks about him as well. He was unsuccessful. After a fantastic season at Slavia Prague, he was unsuccessful at Benfica and then didn't really have a great loan stint at Hoffenheim either. So that's a question mark about him. But on the other side, in terms of the profile, it's exactly what you want. Tammy Abraham, very talented player, not a doubt in my head at all about that. But since this injury, he's struggled. But in terms of profile, he's big, he's tall, he's strong. Supposedly his hold-up play is good. Maybe not the best passer of the ball, what I've heard, but his assist numbers would actually... This is from what I've read, but his assist numbers tell a different story, to be honest.
Who are you talking about
he's
now?
got high assist numbers.
Now he's on Abraham.
Now it's Abraham now.
Oh, okay. Well,
Abraham.
His passing game is something that Milan fans were actually very pleasantly surprised of.
Yeah, I've read that his passing game is not that good, but at the same time, his assist numbers are really good, I think, for a striker. See, if your striker's getting 5-6 assists a year, you can't ask for anything more than that. The fact that he's a big physical specimen, can hold up the ball.
Patrick Schick scored 27 goals last season, got 0 assists.
Yeah.
And I think even Mario Gomez in this season had only 2 or 3 assists. So like you said, I mean, Tammy Abraham this last season had 8 assists, I think, for Milan. 7 or 8, I think. 5.
So, I mean, that's...
In a reduced role. So.
As the point I was getting to, yes, there's question marks about both these players, but the profiles seem to be spot on. I mean, could you imagine, with Immobile, a lot of the time when he had his back to the defender, he'd fall and lose the ball. But now with Abraham, we've got someone that's strong, a physical presence, will be able to hold that ball, allows the rest of the team to come up the park. Think about the combinations he could do with Rafa, where Rafa's passing the ball into him, he's holding up the ball, Rafa can make a run off him, and he can service him like that. Like the puzzle pieces are fitting together, which is very good to hear. That's very exciting.
So back to what I was saying earlier, though, and why I think we can expect perhaps reasons why I think Tammy Abraham is going to do better than people who are worried think is that he's going to be in a starting role, so he's going to be in a more prominent role. He's going to be getting more opportunities. He's going to be guaranteed X amount of chances per game as our sole striker. And again, going back to what I was saying, right? We're actually building now a squad that should provide those chances already, right? Like Kenny over Rashica would be ideal, and Kenny would provide him with now again we have someone who can use his head. So that's already going in the right direction. Obviously, we're going to need another winger, and based on who we provide him with there, that should provide him with another X amount of chances per game. But so anyway, point being, he's going to be guaranteed chances that he wasn't guaranteed coming off the bench, or at least a number of chances that he wasn't going to be given. And so the result is going to be better. I mean, he's coming to a lower quality league. Obviously, we all love the Beşiktaş in the Super League, but I don't think any of us have any delusions of grandeur, right?
Let's not act like we're MLS fans or something that have delusions of grandeur that our league is top 6 in the world or something like that. Stupid.
Exactly.
We're lucky if we crack the top 10 right now. So
I mean, we are in the top 10 just now. So I think we need to give ourselves credit at least
in Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, of course.
Not in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, now that we see Brazilian clubs, maybe aren't so bad.
Yeah, Brazilian clubs, Argentinian clubs. There's even the Saudi clubs. The top Saudi clubs. I mean, obviously, I think the level of the league in Saudi. If you look at if you watch games from Saudi Arabia from time to time, like that's not Super League level. But the top teams and like Al Hilal and stuff probably win the league.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, so they should, man, with the money they've spent.
Oh yeah, of course, 100%. Of course they should. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we gave that,
yeah.
See if we had that money and we actually spent it smartly. Without who knows what would be the possibilities for us, man? If we had the money they had, and
there's also the kind of the hired hitman, right? There's a hired hitman kind of mercenary nature to. Right, you have these names coming in every year, and there's a lot of there's not much consistency. But on the other hand, that's also
look, they bring
us
in
of late. But
they bring in players. Like John Duran's a perfect example, right? Like gets brought in last season for a ridiculous fee and all that kind of stuff, and then 12 months later, it's already sent packing and on his way. It's like this supposed youth movement in Saudi football. We don't just want to.
It just shows you exactly.
Yeah, we don't just want to sign.
It shows you the superficiality of it.
The Benzemas of the world and all that kind of stuff. We also want to sign. We want to build towards the future and sign young players. But look at Al Nassr. John Duran has to go. They want Wesley to go. These young players. They have to make room now for new stars.
Yeah, well, and it's because they want to look like they're evolving as a league and bringing in younger talent, but there still is such a amount of pressure 100%. On these stars to come in and provide immediate numbers, right?
Yeah.
That like goals, assists, whatever, and that's not necessarily what you're going to get with the 21-year-old or 20-year-old
artificial league.
Sense,
where
it's it's like optics.
PR. It's optics. It's PR. Yeah. It's just trying to get eyes on the product. John Duran was very relevant last year when he was coming off of a second really good season with Villa. I think 12 goals in the Premier League or something like that for the second season running. Was seen as one of the big talents in world football up top. And then the Saudi clubs come in. It's like, we can sign those players.
Look what we can do.
We can compete with Europe's elite and sign players like this. But then 12 months later they lose interest in their and they want a new toy. That's
and the player has been devalued.
They only signed him in January.
January.
And everything, right? And all they really did was waste about a year of this dude's career, devalue him, and he's going to go to maybe Fener instead of like a huge team that was probably shopping for him a year ago, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's not like he's helped. If anything, they've proven that their shit does not work. They've already looked to flip them, so they're doing away with this youth movement on 6 months in, a year in, and the player has been hurt. His career has been stalled. So it doesn't seem like anyone won.
I don't think it's a coincidence that these players that go to Saudi who then leave the next season aren't going back to top 5 leagues, because teams in the top 5 leagues that would have otherwise been interested in these players, they can't afford to pay 10 million euro net for that type of a player, like Everton's not going to be able to do that. They have financial issues to begin with. Fenerbahçe can pay it. Well, they can.
And
their sugar daddy
I wonder how much of it even is like, so much of modern football is looking for that edge and these little extra dynamics that can kind of give you the 3 points rather than 1 point. The guys who have the right mentality, all that. I wonder how much one looks at these guys and says, look, man, they've already prioritized making money and making their career secondary at such a young age. Like, maybe you're questioning their desire, their drive. Are they going to, be 100%, in the 90th minute when you need, it's just, I wonder how much the psychology starts to play in when you devalue a guy like that. And because you're right, like you rarely see these guys. In fact, have we ever seen a player leave Saudi for a top flight league?
Well, it's very fresh still, right? But the same thing kind of happened with China. Those players didn't really.
No, but I mean, we've got a good 5 years now. Yeah. Right, about 5 years of Saudi, investment in football.
3 years, right? I think we're going into the third season because Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, no, I mean 3 with Ronaldo, season. But I think even before Ronaldo, it was already percolating, right? Like they were.
I mean,
Right,
I
like
It
think
was mainly
with Ronaldo,
Qatar
the floodgates
before.
opened before that. Ronaldo was the first proper
Yes.
big name to go.
yeah. Well, of course, yeah. He opened the floodgates for
The
sure.
floodgates opened 2 years ago, essentially. But I think before, obviously, in the 2000s and in the 2010s, like Qatar were, Quaresma went from us to Qatar, if I'm not, or Dubai.
Yeah.
One of those. So that there's always been money in Arab football, and Xavi Hernandez, I think, played for Al Hilal and stuff like that. So there's always been money there, but it's never been this coordinated effort that only just happened like 2 years ago. Like the whole.
When
team-
did Talisca go to Al Nassr? That was only 2 years ago.
Yes, that must have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Talisca was 2021,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
before.
I bet you can't compare the likes of Talisca to.
No, I just
Beyond
mean
that.
look, but what that proves though is that they were already spending pretty big money to bring in like talent, and again, Talisca
but
didn't make
he-
the move back to a top flight league.
No, but he
right?
came
Like,
from China, right? He went from China
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to
Well, but
Saudi.
then
That's
to-
how it used to be.
yeah.
That's they used to get these types of players, and now we're aiming for like really big names.
Of course,
I think
yeah.
wouldn't be able to get. But let's get back to Beşiktaş though, because now we're talking about Saudi football and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
we're
we
going in
were
depth.
talking about, of course, that the Super League is a step down from the Serie A. I don't think any of us need to act like it's not, because you were talking about your expectations for Tammy Abraham, because it's a slight step down on level. But on the same time, I think Katel rightfully pointed out in the group chat the other day. I don't remember what it was. Katel, there was this quote of somebody saying that Abraham was gonna do well. Oh, it was I guess Italian friend, right? Like Milan supporting friend.
Yeah. So what I said was, we don't have delusions of grandeur, as we've just established. Like we know our league isn't to the quality of a Serie A or a La Liga or a Bundesliga or a Premier League, or even I'd even argue like the Belgian league and stuff like that. But I think at the same time,
Different.
the supporters of the top 5 leagues do underestimate our league.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not. It's
a
like,
tough
it's not
league
the-
to
like
succeed.
it's not like a fucking pub league, you know what I mean? It's still a serious,
Sure.
competitive league.
Yeah, we see that
No,
all
but
the
he's
time.
coming from.
No, but we see
He's
all
coming
the
from,
time.
like,
players-
Roma, right? Like,
players-
they got
no,
fans.
but
I
we
could
see,
imagine like the Lazio fans last year would have thought, "Oh, Immobile will kill it in that Turkish Farmers League," but we saw what happened.
But also, Katal, if he would have
Different
had
profile.
proper supply, if you put Immobile in Fener or you put Immobile in Galatasaray last season, I think he scores 25 goals. I really do.
So
Yeah.
I thought without Perez.
And
of
he
course,
had a
yes.
relatively. Obviously, we know the vast majority of these are penalties, and I mean nobody's
Yeah.
going to say he lit the league on fire, but it's not like he. I mean, his numbers were pretty good, right?
He
like
scored
on paper,
19 he scored 15 in the league, 19 in total, 19 goals in total.
I think.
Yeah.
I still
we
think
can all
most
agree that he
Italian.
failed eye test. I think we can all agree that he failed eye test, and
Yeah, but I just think most of those Italians that you're talking about, they're going to look at his stats and be like Immobile put up 19
I think-
goals in the Super League, and he's
No,
like 50 years old.
Yeah, but no, I
like
think
they'll
guys,
still run with the narrative.
when you say, okay, this old veteran striker that scores a lot of goals and has a track record of scoring a lot of goals, he's going to one of the big 3 clubs in Turkey. I think most people assume, okay, they're gonna be head and shoulders above everyone else except for those other 2 big clubs, and he's gonna have an easy time scoring goals. I don't think that necessarily means that the level of the league, that they underestimate the level of the league. I think they overestimate probably the level of Beşiktaş at that point. I think they probably expect, Beşiktaş probably has some proper supply, has wingers, has people who can feed him. I think if Immobile, we can all agree he did not work out. And I even think if he would have had proper supply, I think we would still be at this point. Physically, he's
not there.
He's not able to weigh on.
We can do better.
He's not able to weigh on the defense enough. He's not an aerial threat. That would have still all been an issue, even if he scored 10 more goals. It still would have been an issue because it's a problem. It would have been less of a problem for sure. But I do think that, people, if you ask them, what do you think Tammy Abraham's going to do in Turkey? I think most people will say, he'll probably do a good job. And they're probably right. But if you put him in a team that doesn't function, a dysfunctional
With like
team,
Rashica as your creative fulcrum.
yeah, and like, if you look at Milan this season, I don't know how their other strikers did this season, but I think Milan didn't have a fantastic campaign overall, right?
They were mid table, I think.
Yeah, so it's all a little bit of a question mark, right, with that kind of stuff. I'm just checking.
I'm gonna guess they were 9th place.
No, I'm just checking.
Right?
Was just seeing with the.
Right.
Now I have to find out if they were
9th. The main thing about what I was referring to about how they underestimate the league is we've had so many of these big names that were on the down previously who outsiders would have expected to have had a big impact in the Super League fail. We've seen it. Can we agree we have seen a lot of that over the years?
Sorry, can you repeat, Kafel? What have we seen a lot in the years?
We've seen a lot of these big names that are on the down that outsiders would expect would come to the Super League and dominate and fail. We've seen a lot of them fail.
I don't know about... Can you give me some?
They were in 8th place.
Can you give some concrete examples? I think often it's not necessarily that the player cannot. I think it's often more a case of what do we expect from these guys, and also how motivated are they? Because I think a lot of players come to Turkey just for financial security, for securing the bag, money that they probably wouldn't be able to get anymore. I think there's examples of players who come here to revitalize their careers. John.
Yeah, there's some great examples as well. There's some brilliant examples, but I'd say there's just as many flops, man.
Yeah, but of course, but then the motivation comes into play, right? Why are they coming? I think, for example, if you look back in John Carew, he came to Turkey, to Beşiktaş, to revitalize his career. Anelka came to revitalize his career. Quaresma, Sneijder, those guys, they kind of came to...
Even Drogba, maybe. Drogba maybe didn't have to revitalize.
Drogba, if you look at Drogba's stats at Galatasaray, man, I don't think you can say that guy was a huge success at Galatasaray.
He wasn't the Champions League mainly, I think.
He got the move back
to
the Premier League afterwards, right?
He did get the move back to Chelsea, but
I think that was only because Mourinho went back and
he was already but he was like 34 or something at the time.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the profile I'm talking about.
Same.
But if you look at Tammy Abraham, for example, like one of the things that consistently comes up is from pundits in Italy is they praise him for his determination and his work ethic. I think if he comes to Turkey with the right mindset, I think he can do some serious damage.
He has everything to play for, right?
Yeah,
he has everything to play for. He wants to revitalize his career. He's young enough to still, maybe have a crack at his national team, right? Like he has everything to play for.
Well, I think
he has enough of a career left to revitalize.
Realistically,
if he were to have a great year or two, he could get the call back up to a bigger team.
Not if he plays in Turkey. Yeah, exactly. If he can use Beşiktaş to go back to the Premier League, for example. But he's never going to get called up to the England team playing in Turkey.
Not from us.
That's not.
No.
He can score 35. He can score 35 league goals. They're not going to call him up. That's not going to happen.
No.
But he can.
No. I'm thinking he can think of this as a stepping stone to sort of get back into a bigger league, and then from there, you never know, right?
It's an opportunity for him to be the de facto starting striker, and after his injury now, he's had a full season at Milan to kind of slowly build himself up again physically. He returned from his injury last April in 2024. So he's only been back a little bit over a year from his injury, and then even a full rupture, a full ACL rupture that's completely tearing off your ACL essentially. That takes a long time to heal, where you are back to being able to train and back able to play. But then it also takes you a long time to get back to your level. So really, I mean, that's something you talked about. Cataledi hasn't, his injury was a couple of years ago, but like his injury was at the end of the 23 season, I think, 2022, 2023.
23. He didn't have an impressive season there either. That's another concern, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm concerned about this transfer being a flop, and I think it's a big risk considering it's our record signing. But as I've said, the fact that I feel like the correct profile that we needed has been identified and brought in. So I'm happy in that regard.
Yeah, and
I want to say something real quickly about
ahead,
the record signing bit. I think we're going to have to do away with that narrative because we're going to break this record, if not every summer for the next few years, every other summer, right? Like, you look at the way the sport is going in general, the way players' contracts and these these deals, right? The amount of money being tossed around, right? Like, football is still going through a period of inflation. And it's worth noting that we've already broken our record like a couple times in recent years, right? It's just happening more and more. And you look at the level of player who we've broken it on more recently, you almost like, we have to expect that we're going to bring in better players than Musrati, younger players, more expensive players, right? Like, this record we're going to spend more than this probably in a summer or two on whatever other huge need we have next. Hopefully Tammy Abraham works out and it's not striker.
Let's hope so. That's a big thing.
Right?
But that's one of those things, Katla, you mentioned it's a big risk, and mainly because of the injury, of course. But I would argue that if you're spending this type of money, it's always a big risk, regardless of who you sign. You know?
I mean, if you look at our track record as a club, we've not really gone it right so far, have we, with the record signings?
All our record signings have been have bombed, really. So let's hope he's going to be the first record signing that kind of lives up to the expectations. But I mean, let's say we would have spent 15 or 20 million on Tolu Alkodane, who I'm a big fan of, right? Yeah. I think that is just as risky.
I would have preferred that personally. I would have preferred that.
I understand that. And
he's came off. He's younger, not had a big injury.
I know, but season
but
Carter,
even if
exactly,
even if Tolu's not a great hit, I still think you could recoup most of that transfer fee. Let's say a year down the line, because of he's still only it would just be a season removed from a great season in Belgium.
But so, Carter, Khan's point is that you're just saying that's the kind of risk you prefer to take, but it's still just as risky, if not more so, in a way, right? Because he has less of a track record.
He has less of a track record.
You're hoping for more to sort of like happen with us that you've never really seen, right? Like, in a way, that's just the risk that you prefer.
To recoup the fee.
But who's going to pay for if he bombs in Turkey? Who's going to pay for him?
Right, like, in a way, at least Tammy Abraham has enough of a name that you can recoup something probably from.
I think, see if we were off the say him for 15, man. I think even if he doesn't have a great season, obviously, if he's not completely dog shit, I think he could probably still get 10, even if he had just an okay season.
Who's going to pay 10 for him?
I think teams that have seen his potential in Belgium. I mean, the Belgian market's one that's probably
that's one. I mentioned this. I said he's had a good season, but he's not had a great season. He hasn't had a Paul Onuachu season. And Paul Onuachu, that... Okay, we should be back.
We're live as we speak?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should be back.
Yeah, look at that. I can see you're on the thing. That's funny. So the cartel's gone.
Yeah, so hopefully it's resolved now. I'm sorry, guys. There was some sort of weird internet outage. I was still like this. All my internet went out essentially, and the uploads stopped. Obviously, the stream paused because of that. But for some weird reason, Kartal and Sinan and I could still talk. We were still able to talk, even though my internet was gone. And then after like, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, like I lost that. Reset the modem. It's fine now. So where did we leave off, guys?
You were talking about Paul Onuachu.
Right. Okay.
So I have a question for you guys. All right, so Onuachu is a guy, you know, we've mentioned him sort of as a reference point. By the way, Khan, do you think we could put us up on the display? I guess I could just look at us on YouTube.
What do you want me to display? Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I will. But yeah, you know, speaking of Onuachu, right? He's making his grand return to the Super League this summer. He's just been purchased by Trabzon for what was it, 8 million?
8 million, yeah.
A lot of money, man, for a player that age, if you ask me.
Right, and so that's why this is why I bring it up, because we are talking about Tammy Abraham as a risk, and as it turns out, we're paying what, like 13 million, and maybe 2 up front, with 13 on the back
13
end.
plus
So
2,
it's 50. It's 15 really. It's 2 million is the loan fee and 13 is the obligation to buy. So really, it's 15 million.
It's 15, yeah.
So, Kartal, would you rather have Onuachu for 8 as a turning 32 this year, or Tammy Abraham for 15?
I mean, I think it's not as a very straightforward answer, in the sense that Onuachu is already a proven commodity in the Super League. He's already came and done very well, but it's someone that values having someone a bit younger and potential to resell. I think when it's that close, man. I mean, it's
also Onuachu's coming off
you can still argue that it's almost double still, to be fair.
But he's coming off a bad year, right?
I mean, it's just,
I'd probably go for Tammy, man, just considering Onuachu's age. And I think Tammy Abraham has had one very big injury in his career.
Yeah.
So has Onuachu, right?
But I can remember Onuachu being pretty bloody fragile like Trabzon's were.
Yeah.
Where he was very good when he played, but I feel like he missed quite a lot of games.
I think he broke his arm at the Africa Cup or something. I think he injured his arm, but it wasn't like a muscular injury or anything like that. So I don't know, but one of the drawbacks on Onuachu is, of course, that he'll be gone mid-season to the Africa Cup.
Oh.
No, he's the AFCON is I believe there's the AFCON in January, right? Or did they move it?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right.
But he'll be gone for a couple of weeks. So
that's the benefit of us not getting Osayi-Samuel, is also while we're on the subject.
At the moment, yes. It's all,
unless we do, that's true.
Yeah. So
how would you guys feel about that? I guess we never really quite wrapped that up. What if we were to get Osayi-Samuel? Would you guys be pissed?
Me? I mean, it just depends. If it's realistic, we get Kyle Walker-Peters, and if I had to pick between the two, I'd pick Kyle Walker-Peters. But if we can't get Kyle Walker-Peters, I'd be fine with Osayi, man, to be honest. Despite what's happened.
I prefer not to.
How about you, Kyle?
I prefer not to poison the well. I prefer to keep those types of characters out of the dressing room. Honestly, I was never super stoked on it to begin with, because I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't really follow the narrative of he is. I mean, I feel like he gets hyped a lot by Turkish fans. I did a podcast a while ago with some Dutch Turks as well about just the Super League in general, and one of the guys was the Galatasaray guy. He was really high on Osayi-Samuel too, and he was like, "Oh, I really want him. I really want Osayi-Samuel at Galatasaray, blah blah blah." And I get it. For the Turkish league, I think he's very fast. He's strong, but I don't think he's that good, really. I don't think he has very little end product. Katal alluded to that. I think he has 5 assists in his 4.5 years at Fenerbahçe. Just to put that into perspective.
He's got 5 assists and scored 7 goals in 4.5 years.
4.5 years, and just to put that into perspective, Jonas Svensson, who most people think isn't a very good offensive back, has 5, if I'm not mistaken, 5 assists in his 2 seasons, 1.5 seasons in service of Beşiktaş. So,
interesting.
I mean, like, Osayi-Samuel gets seen as this really good offensive fullback, and yeah, he's very energetic. He's fast. He's strong. It's very difficult.
Man.
I think in our league we have so few really good wingers, especially on the left side. I can't really think of a left winger that plays for an Anadolu team that can realistically outmuscle Osayi-Samuel. But I think that's more down to the quality of the league and the lack of those types of players, rather than Osayi-Samuel being that great. I'd be okay. I'd be 100% fine with us signing Osayi-Samuel if it wasn't for what just happened with him. I think that just shows that he has that his priorities aren't straight. Like, he's not in it. Obviously, they're all in it for money. I understand that they have to make a living, but you have to also keep in mind this guy burned a bridge at Fenerbahçe by asking for $3 million a year. Fenerbahçe walked away, told him to fuck off, essentially. And then he has a second chance at a good contract with us. And then on the very last moment, he blows it all up. Whether he did it or his dad did it, it doesn't really matter to me. The fact is he allowed it to happen. They blew up a really good deal because of greed. And I think when that is apparently the only motivating factor, I understand it being the main motivating factor for a football player. I understand that, especially for African players and Brazilian players. I completely understand that is their first motivating factor. But if it's the only motivating factor, I think you have a problem, because then you have a potential rotten apple in the dressing room. And we were, how long have you been on the podcast now, Katla, with us? Like 1.5 years, 2 years? We've been talking about rotten apples in the dressing room for so long and trying to get rid of them. And here we are potentially bringing a new one in to spoil the new batch. I think we finally got rid of a lot of those rotten apples. I don't think we should be bringing any new ones in. So in that regard, I prefer us. I'm not going to say I'm going to be pissed off if we do end up signing him. If it's for less money, I think it would kind of tickle me and make me chuckle a little bit if he ends up signing for less money than he originally agreed upon. But I'm on board with Katla. I would much rather see somebody like Kyle Walker-Peters, or who I have to point out I am not very familiar with, so I'm just going purely on what other people are saying about him. Or Nelson Semedo. And I know Semedo is 31, going on 32, but I think at Benfica he was really, really good.
I've always liked Semedo.
And
I've been a big fan.
Yeah, and he spent 3 or 4 seasons at Barcelona playing a lot of games. Then he went to Wolves for a big fee. Played a couple of, played like 3 or 4 seasons there. I know he's in his 30s now, but I think that somebody with that type of experience, if you remember, I think the best fullback we've ever had was Adriano. And the second best fullback we've ever had was probably Gökhan Gönül. And both of them were well into their 30s when they came. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have one fullback that's a little bit older, and if he has the experience, at the highest level for Barcelona, in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the Champions League. So I would be very much in favor of someone like Semedo if the conditions aren't exaggerated. If we're not going to be paying.
I'm going to go a step further, Khan.
Yeah, go ahead.
While we're on the subject, I would even suggest that if, according to all rumors, all sense and logic, even, right? Like we're very likely to be getting rid of Ciro Immobile, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Well, Ciro for sure. It looks like that's about to happen, and we should talk about that as well, actually.
Well, and Chamberlain too, right? Like we've only heard
nothing concrete
rumors.
So far.
Nothing concrete, no doubt. But like the rumors have been that he's willing to take kind of less and less. Right? Originally he needed 3.5, and then 3, and now supposedly he wants 2.5 to leave. Now, if there's any truth to these rumors, those are that's a number that's going in the right direction. And what's more promising is that if there's any truth to those rumors, the hope is that they actually are in communication and working towards a deal, which that's really what we want. But whatever the outcome, that's what we need.
You have a very concrete suitor, a club that have offered him a good contract. Apparently, is it Bologna? I think it's Bologna, right? They offered him $2 million a year, and
2.5 apparently.
There were some rumors now that they've upped it to 2.5 to make it happen. So there's a club there who is willing to put some decent cash on the table. And it's concrete. This has been confirmed by trustworthy sources in Italy that Bologna are serious about signing Ciro. There's no such thing about Ox, right? So there's no credible news about Ox, a club being interested in Ox and pushing for Ox. and being willing to, pay him a decent salary. There's none of that. So with Chiro, I think he'll probably end up leaving in the next week, hopefully. With Ox, that could drag out until late September maybe. So like, there's nothing concrete there.
But either way though, the point being that we're very likely to be getting rid of at some point, before the season starts, if not all of our older guys who are up in their 30s, the vast majority of them. I'm trying to think who would be left. I guess Rafa Silva, obviously. João Mario, we've not heard much in a while, but there was talk of him maybe leaving. I mean, look, chances are we're going to have like 2 guys who are over 30 going into the season.
Paulista.
Adding a third is not bad. Paulista, yeah. Okay, so 3 or 4, right? Like, my point being, we're not adding 30-plus-year-old guys. And Met, right? Anyway, point being, we're still going to have less 30, guys into their 30s than we did last season. And in the case of Semedo, you're bringing a guy with obvious talent who's playing at the highest level still, right? He's coming off a great season with Wolverhampton. The only reason they'd be willing to let him go is because of his age, right? Which is I
think he's out of contract.
In a way, for the Super League. Oh, there you go. But for the Super League, that's kind of the ideal type of older player you'd be getting, right? A guy who is like, think about Roman Saiz, Kartal, who you were a big fan of, right? From the same club, in fact. I think a guy like Semedo is more than good enough to play at a very high level.
There's a bit of a difference. Semedo's a player that's known for blistering pace. So when you're getting a guy,
but he was playing so well.
He's close to. He's turning 32. Years old in November, I believe. So he's actually 3.5 years older than Kyle Walker-Peters. So I think if it's between the two, I think we need to go for Kyle Walker-Peters, considering he's 3.5 years younger. So to me, that'd be. I think that'd be a better move. Semedo's definitely a very good fullback, very, very high pedigree, but you could argue it's maybe getting a bit risky depending on the length of contract we give him, especially the fact that he's turning 32 this year and is a player that is known for his blistering pace. And often
I'd give him 2 years max, maybe even a 1+1, right? Like that would be the ideal.
Well, probably that's one of those things like. That's one of the things like 1+1 year contract offers are rarely accepted by players who.
I mean, that's why I said probably 2 years, but like ideally you do a 1+1, and then like whatever you got to make it work one way or another.
Realistically, 2+1 is probably what that would look like. Realistically, that's just players are going to ask for something like that.
Shouts to Ahmed Farouk Hatirnaz. Shout, man. Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for subscribing. Yeah. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. But yeah,
do that whenever we get
with Osayi-Samuel, for me, I think it would have been a fine solution for us, a cheap solution. Okay, you're paying him a little bit more. I think a little bit more than you would usually pay a fullback, most likely. But free transfer, so
on a free,
it would have been fine, if he would have just kept himself to the deal. But right now, I think like I said, I think he's shown himself to be a bit of a rotten apple, and I think we should stay away from him if we have alternatives that are willing to come. So if you, for example, you can bring in a Kyle Walker-Peters, or you can bring in a Nelson Semedo or somebody from left field that we haven't heard of yet. Go for those players first. I think. Osayi should be. You can put an offer on the table, like let's say 1.3 million a year, and say, okay, you didn't.
I'd say 1.5 maybe.
See something very interesting about Kyle Walker-Peters. He can play almost anywhere in the back line. He's played left back, centre back, right back, left wing back, right wing back, left mid, right mid. So there was actually something that in the other group chat scene and we were discussing earlier. So you weren't part of this conversation, but we were talking about the different kind of things we could do in game and possession. Like, for example, if we're signing 2 wing backs that like to bomb forward, what would we do? And would we go for a standard back 3? or would we, in possession, would we get the 6 to drop back and form a back 3, or would we only send one full back at a time, and then keep the little one back and keep them in a back 3 in possession? So see the fact that Kyle Walker-Peters has actually played as a centre back, like that means that.
So you mean he's defensively strong enough that you could rely on him?
I mean,
on a back 4.
I have read stuff that maybe his defending is not great, but the fact that he's played centre back in his career makes you think that he's reliable enough to do it. The fact that
Masuaku has played centre back in his career.
I mean, well, he actually played very good, didn't he? So.
He did.
Masoud Digger.
The fact that it's actually listed as one of his positions on football makes you think if he's been trusted to play in that centre back role, seeing these situations where it gives us that flexibility, where if Jurasek's bombing down the left in possession at that moment, it wouldn't always need to be the 6 that drops down, or we wouldn't have to go for a traditional back 3. Kyle Walker-Peters, for example, should feel confident enough to come back and form a back 3 in that situation. And then maybe if you're sending Peters up, we could get one of the 6th maybe to drop back and form a back 3. So it seems like a player that he's like bad PR maybe a wee bit, but obviously a much higher pedigree, a much bigger pedigree, and a better player. Supposedly his pass completion stats are really good, so it shows that he's reliable in the passing game. Good crosser.
I have a question.
So it seems like very good engine. He's not blisteringly quick like Osayi, but he's got a good engine, good at going back up and down, and he's a very good dribbler. So it really seems to be that he's a complete package.
Do we have a legit shot at him?
I mean, supposedly he's the main guy we're interested in just now, but I've also heard that Tottenham.
Is anyone else coming in for him? Who? Tottenham.
Yeah, so
Tottenham supposedly, but like he probably be a squad depth player there.
Yeah. So it seems like it might be quite hard to get him, but if we can get him, I think that would be a coup for us, man. A complete right back.
There's a part of me that feels like the fact that we've heard his name and Semedo's name means we might not. We might not have any chance at them at all. You know?
That's one of those things, right? Like both transfers that we have made now are essentially players that came out of nowhere. I know Abraham has been linked a little bit here and there, but not really by credible people. It wasn't exactly. It was like people who.
And it was like, that's not happening. We can't afford that.
But also just like from people who just clearly just throwing some shit at the wall, saying what stakes, so they could be like, oh look, I was right. I said this on the 6th of June. I always knew. I have inside information. Blah blah blah blah blah. Those type of people.
It's the same guy who also said like Lukaku, and and he has a laundry list of players.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that going on in social media, especially in Turkish football. There's a lot of those random accounts that pop up with news and and that's also one of those things right now. So there's now a lot of excitement with Jurasek and Tammy Abraham, and suddenly you see like rumors explode, and people go from knowing very well 99% of this stuff is bullshit to now believing everything again because there's momentum. And
it's like Cartel was saying, right? Once you get the one in and then another, and you're just, it's like that you have that need for the dopamine rush. You keep hitting the reset button, and I feel like people are feeding that, right? They're probably taking advantage of our weakness.
100%.
So, there's probably a lot of that.
Now you've got Sercan Dikmez. Beşiktaş are accelerating the left.
Left back. So left winger and right back.
Stay tuned, everyone. Like, stay by your phone.
Same people.
Like I wasn't trying. Like not to.
The same people who on the day that we signed, that the Jurasek news broke. Those same people were saying, "Oh, there won't be any movement until July." Same people.
Exactly.
Straight faced, and then as soon as the Jurasek news broke, then they start. Oh, and now this is gonna happen.
By the way, stay tuned.
I mean, they gotta get people to their streams, bro. I mean,
make sure you're notified for everything I tweet starting now.
Don't forget to hit the notification.
Should I read some comments?
Yes, we should get into some comments. By the way, our guest is not going to be able to come, unfortunately. An emergency came up, and he offered to come on tomorrow or something, but he won't be able to come on, unfortunately. So.
You guys maybe
you
can
still
do
you can still do a one-on-one interview with him, and
I can, yeah. I've also
yeah,
reached out to a couple of former coaches of Tammy Abraham. Unfortunately, one of them already declined because he is currently working at a club and he was told not to do any media for a while, and then somebody else I'm still waiting to hear back from. So yeah, but I'll definitely see if I can get in touch with Nima to talk about him and his expectations from what he's seen from Tammy Abraham in Serie A. So yeah. Let's do some comments.
Yeah, comments. So first of all, we got Nasser. He's been vocal in there. It's good to see you, Nasser. We haven't had you for like a full episode in a while, so it's always good to see our long-time listeners active. So he says, bear in mind, the window just opened on June 29th, and we've already signed 2 players. Credit where it's due to Serdal and the scouting team. They've delivered early. And yeah, I mean, just in time for the Schroding report, by the way. He was about to get demerits for tardiness, but no, they've done a good job, man. I'm not gonna lie. And like part of it was like I was gonna be like, well, he got as a left back, but like he's the one who created that hole in the first place. But then he also brought in a striker, which was the glaring need. So I mean, I'm gonna have to back off with my criticism for sure. Well, we'll see what Ural has to say though. I'm gonna get my usual call in from Ural. Anyway, continuing on with the group chats, Nasser says, if we can bring in a quality left wing, a solid midfielder, and a right back, and clear out the deadwood, yeah, that's a big caveat. This could turn out to be an incredible transfer window. Yeah, and I mean, so far so good, right? I mean, clearing out the deadwood remains the sort of existential need at this point. I mean, yeah, I mean, hopefully we get more news in that regard soon. And then finally, Nasser wraps up his little commentary with, Bright Osayi is a decent player, but honestly, there are better options out there with a similar profile to Jurasek, ones who might offer more consistency and long-term upside. And yeah, I mean, just like Jurasek, we're not going to know who they are until they sign for us, probably. Or that's my thinking.
And then there's lots of good athletic fullbacks out there, which is essentially what Osayi-Samuel is. So I really don't think Osayi-Samuel is like a must. I'm sure there's other free agents out there right now, or players we can get relatively cheap or something. You know, there's like Archie. What's Archie's name again? I forget. From Kent. Like there's guys like that. You know, there's like look at Sasha Boy. Sasha Boy was essentially that, like a really good athlete, fast.
Yeah.
And then he
also
went to
lack of end product.
Sorry.
Also had a lack of end product.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, exactly. So, like, these types do well in Turkey, which also makes me expect that Jurasek will do pretty well in Turkey because he's got that pace and all that kind of stuff. So, I really think that, like, Osayi-Samuel, I agree with Nasser, he's a decent player, but I don't think he's somebody we should be bending over backwards for. And if he decides to burn the bridge, then too bad for him. Let's move on to the next target.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my only, like, the reason I keep bringing up the fact that, I mean, Jurasek is proof that we have scouts that are in there doing their job, finding names that we're not going to be thinking of. So for the segment of our fan base, right, and for the section of our fan base, or the sections that are willing to go to civil war over, like, Semedo or Kyle Walker, just whatever his name is, and then, or like, Osayi-Samuel, we've got to bring them, like, before you like pick up your bayonets, I would suggest let's just wait and see if any of these names even are relevant to Beşiktaş in a week's time.
But that's also what happens though with the fan base. You know, you kind of create like this tunnel vision because you keep linking yourself, like your club keeps getting linked with like 1 or 2 players, and so like you start almost thinking that there's only those 2 players in the world that are available. But there's such a big sea full of fish. You know, it's like it's like relationships.
Yeah, plenty of fish in the sea, but
it is. It's true, especially in football.
No, and like especially when you have scouts, right? Like nobody had Jurasek on their radar, and everybody is happy. Well, except for that one shithead I saw who wrote him.
There were definitely some negative Nancy's when it got like.
I wonder if I'm almost wondering if there are like agent provocateur site, you know, like Galatasaray or Fener fans who are doing that type of shit. Yeah, what is that little chair? Nice chair.
It's a little chair. I didn't know if my camera was picking it up. I love how it was a little chair. Yeah, it's a steel chair. See now.
You're ready to slam someone with that?
Yeah.
Is that for the agent provocateurs, the Galatasaray fans who are spreading slander? Anyway, yeah, I wonder. That can't be a real Beşiktaş fan who would write a brand new signing who's not by any means a failure or like a low profile. Like, what kind of an asshole? If that's really a Beşiktaş fan, my advice is go fucking follow
people online
basketball
are so toxic, man. They're just so toxic and negative. There's so much negativity, and also I think it's kind of something that brews with the fact that we have had such lean years recently. And I mean, we say lean years. I mean, we've won like 3 trophies in the last 2 years, but like
it could be leaner if we were in blue and yellow. But yeah,
exactly. There's clubs who are a bit leaner, but yeah. But there's those people who always have to find a negative angle, man, and also it's almost I think a lot of the fan base at this point are kind of pessimistic by nature, just because
like they're just expecting the worst.
In the last 4 years.
No, I'm not saying I blame them. I understand it. And that's kind of, I completely understand it. Because, like we said earlier, we broke the bank on Musrati, didn't work out. We broke the bank on Mucci, didn't work out. So then you're automatically going to think, we're breaking the bank on Tammy Abraham, but is that going to work out, right? Like, our past experiences say no, because they have been so negative.
Someone writes, Tata, we are going bankrupt, bro. For example. Anyway.
Is it my eyes or is it hard to read that blue on the screen?
I know, with the dark blue, right?
Yeah, it's a bit tough, yeah.
Atil says, Tammy Ibrahim Pasha. He says, absolutely love how unexpected the Abraham saga... Abraham, sorry, I'm doing like an accent on the Abraham saga has been. Yeah, it's been quite the story. I mean, I love the way this board operates in silence.
Oh yeah,
jeez,
definitely.
Silent lasagna, etc. You know the deal, folks. Umer says Walker Peters has had some great games against top quality. Osayi-Samuel is decent, but KWP, we've already got an acronym for him, would be next level. Again, guys, before we create acronyms for players, let's just make sure we're going to bring them in. I'm just not convinced it's worth getting too worked up about a guy we're not sure. Anyway, you guys know where I'm going with that.
But we also have to add to that. So, Osayi has been in the news, and that was also... It was true, right? So it's perfectly possible. Yeah,
that was legit.
That these names who we get repeatedly linked with, like a Kyle Walker-Peters or like it's the only one I can really think of right now, because like Nelson Semedo has been suggested, but it's not really heated up that much. But Kyle Walker-Peters definitely has heated up. So, and I think Murat Özin also confirmed that there was concrete interest in him. So, and he's I think right now probably the most reliable Beşiktaş reporter out there, probably.
Okay. I mean, look, I would love it, but just, it's just worth noting that both of the guys we've brought in so far had no hype coming into it, right? So, I'm not saying it's impossible. And with Osayi-Samuel, it was different in that, like, that was sort of rumored for months because his contract was up. He's already in Turkey, And that was more grounded in something very, like, it would make sense that he would look across the Bosphorus. Anyway. Continuing on, we have Hax Honcho. Good to see you. Oh, no, sorry, Atil. Jean Duran was on Chicago Fire like 2 years ago. LOL. Tammy is way more proven. So that goes to our previous conversation. Yeah. Hax Honcho says, let's go, Beşiktaş. Good to see you, Hax. Back from Australia. That's where I believe he said he's from.
Yeah, that's right.
Atil says, Tammy was scoring huge goals in the Cup for Milan these last few months, which was the only competition they were competing in at that point of the year, a.k.a. his value within the squad obviously went up. That's funny. I don't know why my mind went to this, but our record signing was Al Musrati, who scored his famous goal in the Cup, and I guess Tammy Right. Also, he's also a cup scorer. Hopefully, that's
scored
not
the winner
like for like
in the
comparison.
Supercoppa Italia against Inter, and then he also scored 4 in 5 Italia.
Yeah, that was the big highlight of the season, the cup performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it is worth noting. Atiel's absolutely right in saying because they finished in 8th place, that was their highest pressure, especially towards the end of the season, right? Those were the games that mattered the most. So, that's worth
had the
put a pin in that.
Like even Sergio Conceição couldn't turn things around there.
Yeah, and it's not like it was all on him because they didn't do much better the year before. So I mean, they're just in a weird place.
I'd be interested in seeing who was their starting striker this season and how many goals did he make. How many goals did he score? Honestly, I can't even think of who their starting striker would be now.
He had Jovic as well, but surely he wasn't the starter.
Yeah, but he was I'm sure he was the third striker. I don't think he made.
Pulisic is on the wing, I guess, right?
Pulisic is behind the striker on the wing, I guess. Yeah, Rafa Leao will be on the wing, so.
You guys have seen that famous meme where it's like an American. They're like, "Oh, he's like the LeBron James of soccer," when they're talking about Pulisic.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I always think of that when I hear his name. Yeah. Anyway,
I can't really think of who their striker is right now. Honestly. Santiago Gimenez, of course. They signed him from Feyenoord. So let's see, Gimenez, but only played 19 games this season. So and he had 6 goals. But they signed him in January, right? That's right. So I'm just checking Luka Jovic because Luka Jovic, 18 appearances, 5 goals. So I don't know.
While I'm reading through these comments, by the way, Talha, if you want to expand on your thought there, you say we're going bankrupt. Let's hear it. Why do you think so? Where does that thought come from? But anyway, we'll get to you when we get to you.
We've been going bankrupt for 20 years.
I know. I was gonna say, on the one hand, it's true for sure, but on the other hand, I don't know why now that would be the case. Right? More than it was at any other time in the last few years.
I mean, the fact that we're spreading this cost over 5 years, it does kind of.
We should have mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Katla mentioned it, I think, but we're spreading it so the payments are being spread in installments until 2030. So in the next 5 years, so we'll be paying, let's say, 15 million. We'll be paying that over the course of 5 years. So on average, 3 million a year or something, right?
Yeah.
So, and also it's important to note that Beşiktaş are expecting a very significant bump in income in the next years, not just because of the Dikilitaş project, which should generate around 200 million euro revenue. Let's call it 150. But the majority of that is going to be used to pay off our debt. So there's not going to be that much money left. But paying off the debt will increase our annual budget by roughly 50 million. Because right now we are paying 50 million interest fees every season.
On every,
And that you have to keep in mind, the club last season, we looked at it a couple of months ago, me and Ural did. The club,
it was a great episode.
The club generated last season 97 million in revenue, but you have to think half of that is going to the banks. So if we pay off our debts, our budget essentially changes from 47 to 50 million to 100 million. So our budget essentially doubles if we pay off the bank loan. That's oversimplification, of course. But that is something that is standing to happen in the next few years as the Dikilitaş project takes shape.
Manifests.
Exactly. Yeah. And with Dikilitaş, as soon as they start, if they get all the permits and stuff like that, they can start pre-selling apartments and stuff like that or whatever they're going to build. So there's already going to be potential revenue coming in within 6 months or so after starting. So it isn't super unrealistic to within the next 12 to 18 months for Beşiktaş to start getting money from that. And that is why Beşiktaş are also spreading out these costs. That's why, for example, our new Jurasek, we have an option to buy him so that we move that down the road. Of course, that means next summer is going to be more expensive. also with Tammy Abraham, with the installments and stuff like that. But all that money is being spread out so that we spend it once money starts coming in. Because there's people online now who are saying, oh, Beşiktaş have money now. No, Beşiktaş don't actually have money right now. Beşiktaş are...
We're working on it, all.
Beşiktaş are projecting to have money within... And those projections are realistic. They aren't high risk.
And that's another thing, Khan. It's one thing to say we're going to have all this money, but the vast majority of it's going to our debts. But it's still very helpful to have that money coming in because... Sure, you've sort of earmarked it to go out to payments, but at the very least, you can have it there. You can float things, and you can kind of make a purchase, and then the next bunch of payments, you put that money towards the other payments. But also, right, you have that liquidity, that flexibility.
Yeah, but if you alleviate the debt, like I said, you suddenly gain access to 50 million of the revenue that you otherwise would not have access to, because that was already allocated to the debt. So
exactly,
Beşiktaş are gonna have significantly more money to spend, and as long as the Diklitaş project goes through within the next couple of years, you mentioned it before, Sina, that Beşiktaş will probably be breaking this record again in the next few seasons, and that isn't unlikely,
No, But so anyway, which is why I asked Talha, why are we going bankrupt now, bro? If anything, it actually, and this is a credit to Adali as well, but it is starting to feel like maybe we're building some long-term things that could actually be resolving our theoretical bankruptcy.
Let's hope so. Of course,
knock on wood.
The club has been in a very precarious position financially for, like I said,
for a decade,
20 years.
2 decades.
2 decades. So
I honestly believe, guys, that see if Adil is able to do what he plans on doing, and we keep the momentum when this transfer window goes and the players are a hitman, he can turn around a lot of pins on him because
a lot as well. He's working on me. I've been giving him terrible grades.
Let's be honest, none of us were really positive at all about Millie when he first came in. The only redeeming quality for me was the fact that he was going to bring in a sporting director of sorts. That was the only redeeming quality for me. You guys were completely negative, I would say, even. But so far,
I wanted him to beat that crackpot that he was running against, but I was not it was more like a lesser of two evils. I had no hopes really even by the time the election came around. So honestly, I consider myself not a neutral. Obviously, I care, but you know what I mean. I was willing to be won over, but I was skeptical given all we've gone through. And I think I'm a perfect example of someone who went from being firmly against a lot of the seemed like they're blowing smoke up our ass, pause, for a while there, and then over time, surely, no doubt, right now, I actually think I still his sort of mob boss mentality and the way he carries himself. Being a little too vocal with the press, saying too much. I mean, that's sort of part and parcel with just being a powerful man in Turkey. It seems like these days, but he's he's doing his job. He's getting the job done at the moment in a way that I'm impressed by.
It's very early days. We could still have a disastrous window and have a bad season again, but the early signs are looking pretty positive, I must say.
Yeah, for sure.
Because See, even if we were to compare it to last year, as soon as Immobile was signed in, a lot of the people that the scout authors the scout wankers, the people that claim to be more in the know about football and the community, they were all dead against the Immobile signing. But now for Abraham, what they're saying, there's question marks about the guy, but the profile fits what we're looking for, and they're saying the same about Jurasek as well. So it seems like there's actually a plan here, and we're not just we're not just signing random players and hoping it works.
Also, in the past, when has a player ever been signed to a Super League side that wasn't risk? If you took other than Osimhen now, right? But if you take a look back at Icardi, there were a lot of question marks around Icardi.
I've got a brilliant one, I've got a brilliant one, Rafa Silva.
Rafa Silva, really?
That's not a risk.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
What was that risk?
no, you're right. Well, the risk there is that you spend a fuck ton of money, right? Like 6 million a year and 10 million signing bonus.
I mean, obviously, there's
and then
always
you don't
going
give
to be
him a team to win with.
there's always some risk involved, but that is as close to no risk as you can probably get.
Okay.
A player that's just had the best
from an
season of his
individual.
career.
But Icardi, Mario Gomez, there were a lot of doubts about Mario Gomez when he came because he was coming off of 2 bad seasons in Italy.
Yeah, me included, man. Like, I wasn't. I was when Mario Gomez was signed. I thought, look, he was a great player, but his last 2 seasons he's been injury prone. He's not been good. Yeah. I wasn't happy with it at the time, but now after it happened, he's my favourite striker that's I've ever seen play for Beşiktaş. For me, my 3rd favourite player that I've watched play for Beşiktaş, and that's see if he never just stayed 1 year and he had a couple of. If he had a couple of seasons after that where he continued in a similar vein, he'd probably be my favourite player ever. The only reason why, for me, my top 3 is like Quaresma, Atiba, Gomez, right? Like Quaresma and Atiba had longevity, but see if Gomez had like a few years instead of 1, and maybe Gomez would have been my favourite player ever.
But to get back on topic, another example. I mean, I think most of these transfers that come to Turkey that do well are always with risk. Take Abubakar, for example. There were a lot of question marks about him. Both times. The first time, he flopped at Porto. He was a flop. So there were doubts there. And then the second time, there were a lot of doubts around his knee. Can he still go?
The visual representation, by the way.
Yeah, no, exactly. But like, and this is like not all of them. Like rightfully, you've pointed out Rafa. We've pointed out Osimhen. Like with Osimhen, you knew if he settles, he's gonna score a lot of goals. We knew that. With Icardi, it was always the question. Okay, he's a good player. That's not.
Which Icardi are you going to get?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is he going to be chasing his girlfriend in Argentina?
Exactly, and they kind of got both, right? They got the lethal striker Icardi, but they also got the guy that suddenly was injured,
Wanderlust,
and
fucked the guy off, with Wanderlust,
and fucked off to Argentina for 6 months. With his ACL injury. No, that's maybe a little bit too much, but he's also like he's fucked off to Argentina before, and I think. I'm just trying to think of more examples, but like Robin van Persie, obviously he didn't work out, but like he was a big question mark as well, where he was at that stage in his career. Luis Nani was a risk. I think 90% of big signings that come to Turkey involve these risks, and
they carry a lot of risk always.
Yeah,
I mean Quaresma carried huge risk in a sense, right? He was on the down,
considered
a flop. Yeah, he was considered a flap.
I think Nani was close to a sure thing to be successful because of his age and how obviously.
And how successful was he really?
I mean, you could argue he didn't have the expected impact, but his numbers. If you look at the numbers were very good from what I remember.
They were. I think his numbers were decent, but he did not have the impact that people expected. Right? He didn't make them champions. So that's one of those things. Like Nani was as close to a sure thing as you could get and didn't deliver. And then you have these players who were on the down elsewhere, but came here, revitalized their careers, and even Wesley Sneijder was kind of like, had an amazing 2010, won the treble with Inter, then played the World Cup final, and then 2 years later he kind of found himself in a weird limbo situation. And I think it's there's rarely a big transfer in Turkey that does not involve risk, and it's rarely a player that's not on a downward trajectory in their careers. Because let's be honest,
or at least like is going through something, right? Like
exactly. I mean,
people have given up on them.
If Tammy Abraham just came off of a 20-goal season for AC Milan, then.
Yeah, we're not on the market for him.
We're
we don't get him.
We won't be talking about him right now, right?
Of course not.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. I mean, it's true with Icardi. If he would have had a banger of a season at Paris Saint-Germain, then he wouldn't come to Galatasaray.
I'd say Pepe was like a low risk signing. Obviously, he was on a bit of a down as well. I think he had some injuries in his last year at Real Madrid, but I think we're all pretty certain that he'd perform. Even though you could argue that he didn't live up to the expectation in the league campaign, despite being very good in the Champions League.
But how much impact can a central defender really have? I think in the league, it's the majority of it is down to your attack.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think Pepe played fine in the league, but I think the kind of debate about his league performance came from the fact that we'd conceded just the same amount of goals as we did the year before. So, in terms of the league, he wasn't really an improvement in terms of the goals conceded. Like, we didn't concede less goals, but in the Champions League, he made a huge improvement, man. Like, hey
guys,
those 6 group games, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, this is an emergency. I got to get to these comments because this TT No Face one isn't showing up here, and if I lose it, I'm not going to be able to read it.
Go ahead.
Because he's used the curse word TT No Face. Be nice to our guy Nasser, man. He's a pod favorite. Not that you aren't, man, but anyway. So Nasser said, "LOL. As bad as Rashita's deliveries can be, he lives. I think he means he loves to cross the ball." If he sharpens up that final ball, Tammy could really feast off it. TT No Faith says, "Sharpen up." Are you kidding me? Rashika's dog shit.
I'm inclined to agree there.
I am too. We love you, Nasser, and we love your positivity and enthusiasm. But I think in the case of Rashida, we'd all be better off if he wasn't crossing the ball much.
Nasser's just trying to polish up the turd, and TT's like, it's a turd, flush it down the fucking toilet.
Maybe Nasser's thinking like, what if somebody who might be interested in him is watching this podcast, right? We gotta do a little bit of PR work for him.
Please don't.
Rashida's amazing. It's worth mentioning. If you're out there looking for a great winger who's not too old,
he is the best winger in the Turkish Super League. He is amazing. I think we can all say
he's a great deal maker.
He's the greatest winger that has ever lived and will ever live. Right. He will light the world on fire.
That's not bad, yeah.
Very good.
He will light the world on fire.
Kante says, "Hey guys, long time no see." I actually do see a lot of Can 2.0.
Oh, Can 2.0.
He always comments on Marquee Chen's live streams.
So he shows up as Can 2.0 then now.
Yeah, he does.
He's everywhere.
That's amazing.
What I will say though is you send Marquee Chen all those super chats, but you don't send us then.
Oof. He thinks these are European Turks. They don't need the money, man.
He said better than Yamal, to be honest. Rashica? Yes. Rashica's so much better. Yamal is like overrated compared to a guy like Rashica who has done it at every level in the professional footballing world. I don't even think there's a better investment to be made in world football.
Definitely.
Currently.
Oh, Borussia
much better. Lamine Yamal. Come on. Like why would you spend your money on something like that when you got a guy like Milot available to you? Anyway, back to the chat. Umer Gunal, yeah, we did that. That was the Walker Peters saga. Hax Honcho, yeah. Carlito, salute Summer Eagles. Good to see you, Carlito. We have a pretty active chat for speaking of the Summer Eagles. Umer is back. He says the thing that excites me the most about Tammy is the fact that worst case scenario, we can cross into the box, and he could actually get on the end of those crosses. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Even if you don't have the greatest of crossers, just having someone there who can, if someone accidentally puts a good cross in, who can make something of it, is better than what we've had.
With Tammy, the biggest concern is he 100% recovered from the injury? Can he get back to his former glory? And is he not going to get injured again, right? Like, I think as soon as he scores a couple of goals, he picks up some steam. And like you said, Sinan, like, he's going to be the main guy. He's going to hopefully be provided with service. Hopefully. I think, once he picks up some confidence, as long as he stays healthy, you'd imagine he'll go through a good season. Because he just has that profile of where it's almost impossible for him not to score, right? Like, he has the height, he has the physicality, he's a good header of the ball, he's a decent finisher with both his feet. He's by no means like a lethal goal scorer, but like, look at the Enesiri, right? Like that's a guy who literally can only score with his head, and look how many goals he scored last season. So Tammy can do that, and he can score with his feet. So
yeah.
You know,
No, I'm cautiously optimistic.
If we're strong enough as a team, as a unit, so we can provide him with the service, then he will score goals. I have no doubts about it.
Yeah. No, and man, that left winger has become even more important somehow.
Yeah.
Like, please get someone who can displace Rashid.
And the right back too, really, because I mean you.
Oh man, yeah, that's true. Because that could, yeah.
Because if only your danger is like last season, essentially it came mostly
if
from
it's over
Masuaku.
focused
on
on
exactly. So you want multiple sources of danger so that they can't just lock it down. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want a playmaking number 8, and I want a creative right winger as well.
No.
I think we need the creativity in the team.
Wait, 8? I thought we need a 6. Don't we need a 6?
Yeah, we need a 6.
I mean, we need a 6 as well.
In addition to the 6. Oh wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to talk about this maybe. That could be our next conversation. Is like, where do we go from here? Let's finish these chats first. Mustafa Tekin asks, what do you guys think about Kyle Walker-Peters? I think we've addressed that. If you're still watching, Mustafa, check out. There's a period where we went into pretty long depth over each of the guys we're being linked to at that position. Atil says, I mean, the same thing happened with the Chinese era. That's when we were talking about the Saudi League for a little while there. We became the Saudi International podcast for a moment. Checking in, Nathan, checking in between meetings to say, what's up, Black Eagles? Good to see you, Mr. Baseball. Ozgulder says, there seems to be a problem with the upstream. I hope that you stuck around, Oz, and you made it through the moment of pause we had there. Good to see a new commenter, though, all the same. Atil says, Semedo has been balling at Wolves. So we have another Semedo fan in this unnecessary civil war that we've had started by the media. Nasser, you've got 2 routes. Go with Semedo and Svensson for short-term cover.
Mm-hmm.
Or find a quality right back with upside who can give us a few strong seasons. That's an interesting thought. Like, what if we, since we can at least have guaranteed 2 foreigners on the bench, 3, since we're going to have at least Mert starting.
You need to remember that one of them is going to be Kenny, and then there's going to be.
So Kenny and
Kenny will hopefully play, though, right?
Yeah, and maybe Kenny's playing, exactly. So anyway, I mean, at least there's gonna be 1 foreigner on the bench. That could be Svensson. If we get a right back that we're less confident in, you could preserve some insurance that way.
Keep in mind,
although I'm pretty sure
they're really the aim is to get a second striker, a foreign second striker. Yeah. So as soon as Chiro leaves, which hopefully will be in the next week, they'll probably want to bring in a foreign second striker. We've of course seen the links with Embolo. Other people have been talking about Weghorst, for example, who profile-wise is the ideal second striker. Whether or not
he probably wants to start.
Whether or not he would be happy with that role is a different matter, though.
I mean, I would love to get a prospect who could take one of the younger foreigner slots, but then there's not enough insurance that they'd be able to perform. Anyway, I mean that's a thought exercise, perhaps. Nasser says, if we're serious about building something for the long term, the second option makes way more sense, meaning getting a right back with more upside. He says that Spurs and Leeds are in for KWP, are acronymed.
Yeah, and Leeds
Leeds
is an interesting destination for him because he'd actually be a starter there. Whereas with Tottenham, I think he'd probably be on the bench, most likely, a rotational player. But Leeds, Leeds are a great club, I think. So, I mean, that's some steep competition there.
Yeah, and I'm going to save this last one that Nasser asks. So it could be a good segue to the next section of our podcast. Khan 2.0, hey, long time no see. We addressed
this last comment is great, by the way.
He said, if we get Walker-Peters, I might change my nick into Osayi's daddy.
Osayi and Babasa would be a great. It would be a really.
Personally, I would miss the Khan 2.0, name, but sure.
Yeah, he's very recognisable the way he is, man. Like
I know, right? And at this point, you claim 2.0.
Whenever he gets a chance to I see him, man. He's always commenting, always sending him super chats.
And if another Khan comes along, you'll lose your 2 point. You don't want to get like what are you going to be 3.0? If you change your mind. When the Osayi's daddy joke like runs its course and you have to come back. What if somebody claims 2.0 and you have to you don't want to demotion, Anyway, TT No Face. We've been needing wings for a while now, and they make transfers every year in the midfield. Left-footed players wouldn't hurt either. And then Khan 2.0 says, "Wow, you are the best, guys." Well, we try, So, okay. As far as the winger talk that TT No Face brings up, that's a good segue to the same thing that I saved Nasser's last question for. So let me ask that one to us, and then that could be where we sort of jump into the next section here. Nasser asks, question for you three. Now that we've sorted left back and striker, who would you like to see come in at left wing, midfield? And I like he says midfield instead of 6 or an 8, because now we've got Cartel might be talking about both. And right back. So, left wing, midfield, and right back. What are we looking for? I'm going to hand it to Cartel first, because Cartel usually has some interesting...
I'm not going to go off of names. I think I'm going to just go...
Yeah, go profile. Go profile. Good.
So
I'm going to get water.
I think I want a number 6 that can... That's a good ball player, but at the same time I want to see someone that's better at defending than Musrati. I'd like to see a playmaking that's also got a good engine as well, because I think that's important. It doesn't need to be an elite engine like Gedson Fernandes, but a playmaking that's got good feet, good engine. And then I think I want a playmaking right winger, someone like Gazelle.
Especially see if we get. What do you do with Kenny? You move him to the left, or
I think you can take them, man.
Sorry?
See, this is where I'm not. What? This is where I'm not sure. I think you can. This is where I'm not sure about what to do exactly, man. Like you can maybe play Kenny on the left. Sometimes you can play him in the cup games on the right.
Why does the playmaking winger need to be on the right though? Why does it need to be on the right? Why can't that be the left one?
I mean, you could do either, man. But I think. You could. I think one of them should be a wing forward and one of them should be a playmaker.
I have a question. So TT No Face says he'd love a left-footed right winger that cuts in. Is that not Kenny?
Yeah. That is Kenny, but is Kenny?
I mean, he wants more of a reliable.
Position for the full season.
Or maybe we don't want to do. We don't want to do to Kenny what we did to Semi last season,
right? That's the question. Is Kenny ready to bear that responsibility? So I think for the money we invested,
he looked
in him,
good by the end of the season, right? He really was starting to look pretty effective.
I think he's.
we have to see it.
To give him a proper run. I think you need, and also keep in mind that when he was playing last season, like we were still kind of shit as well. So like, if the team gets better, he gets a proper fullback behind him. The team is more stable. We have actually a striker to service. Kenny could be a great star for us this season. At the same time, like you rightfully point out, like there's also a possibility that, we expect him to be a starter like we did Semi this season, and then he has
we undermine him.
Yeah, and then he has an off season essentially. So it's a tough one. I think. On one hand, you invested a lot of money in Kenny. He cost us $5.5 million, right? And if we want to have 80% of his rights, it's going to end up costing us $9.2 million, which is up there in all-time signings. I think somebody you invested heavily in, you also should give the confidence and give the chance to have a proper run in the team. Yeah. So I don't.
We gave him the number 10. Yeah.
Right. So I think if you, for example, like one of the players we're being linked with right now, Andreaskov Olsen. Right winger with left foot. Like if you bring that in, that's fine. But then I think you don't bring in a left winger necessarily, and you put Kenny there. or if you bring in a left winger, I think you should probably not bring in a right winger as well, or it should be somebody who clearly is rotational, like a Yusuf Sarr, for example. And I think Yusuf Sarr, if Kenny has a dip, is still good enough to justify just starting him as well. But he's not somebody that you're going to de facto start over your talents, right? So I hope for something like that, where we get one really good winger, whether it's a left wing or a right wing. I don't think it matters that much, because I think Kenny can play either wing anyway. And then I really want a good rotational winger, ideally somebody like Yusuf Sarr. Ideally, I've been advocating for this for a long time. For me, it should be Yusuf Sarr. But of course, we've already allowed Onur Bulut to join Başakşehir at this point, so we don't have that option anymore to perhaps include him in a player swap. But yeah, and I don't want to see us paying like 2-3 million euros for Yusuf Sarr, like $1 million, $1.5 million maybe. But like, I don't want to see us spend.
What did they pay? Do we know?
500,000, I think.
Shit, so they can't ask for like.
They can, of course they can.
Million.
I mean, they of course.
I mean, they could try, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's at the end of the day, he's like 28 years old, and he's one of the few decent Turkish wingers out there that's not Cengiz Ünder and super overpriced. I mean, Cengiz Ünder is not somebody you want for your rotation, because he earns like 4 or 5 million a year or something stupid like that, and he's always injured.
Khan 2.0 suggested, as you mentioned, Skov, Olsen, Rashford. So I guess those are left wing options, right? And then Anguissa and Partey. That's now we've moved back further into the midfield and whatnot.
But Rashford makes like 20 million.
Yeah, Rashford's like a pipe dream, man. We need to be a bit more realistic.
Rashford is impossible. Rashford makes, I believe, 17 or 18 million brut a year. So that boils down to what, like 10, 11 million euros net or something like that. Like, I don't think. Okay, Beşiktaş could pay that, but then that's like so much of your budget gone, and then
you need to call up Hussein Yücel,
and then you haven't even.
Hey Hussein, we need you.
Then you haven't even paid a transfer fee yet. I know Aston Villa got him on loan last season, so maybe there's a possibility there. But I think that is like, I think Rashford is, for us, if we want to stay at least a little bit fiscally responsible, I think it is impossible. I'm not saying it is. You can say, okay, we're going to offer this guy 15 million a year or something stupid. But
so TT No Face says, yeah, Kenny's a good sub for now. Maybe a star name. So someone who would like definitely.
I think see if Kenny's like a sub for the next two years, man. I don't think that's going to harm him too much, man. He'll be 21 in 2 years, like.
He needs to play.
As long as he's pushing.
No. He needs to play. I've said this so many times, man. These are pivotal years for a player of that age. They need to play. If you're gonna keep him on the bench for 2 years, you're cutting him off on the at the knees. That's terrible.
You don't think there could be ways to balance his minutes, but where he's not starting every game, but he's still getting a fair amount of minutes?
It can be 10-15 minutes like it has been this half season, essentially. It needs to be like some proper play time. He needs to start games. Of course, he can come off the bench in other games. He doesn't need to play every single match, at least he doesn't have to start every single match, but he needs to get 2,000, 2,500 minutes at least. Otherwise, you're wasting him.
So from what I understand, you'd rather we don't sign a top quality right mid and we use Kenny as the starting right mid for the next season?
I think I said that, right? I said either you sign a left winger, a really good left winger, or a really good right winger, one of the two.
I mean, guys,
and then Kenny needs to be the other one, and then you sign a third one rotation.
Are we selling Rashica? Do we have any?
I mean, ideally, that's what I would hope. I would want.
But if not, I think, in a way, Khan, if we can't sell Rashica, I think it means...
you can't afford to have another right winger anyway. So
if we're stuck with Rashica and Kenny, I mean, I think we'd all say we want to see Kenny playing and then
yeah,
Rashica
of course.
becomes
Kenny-
the one guy on the bench.
Both Kenny and Rashica are perfectly capable of playing on the left as well. So that's not
What,
really.
what could be another solution
Yeah.
potentially? See if we were to sign like a guy like Pablo Sarabia, who's like 32, 33, but is a creative player.
Yeah.
Like, I think maybe that would be an ideal situation where you can throw in him for experience at times, but Kenny would play the majority of the games. I think that's another thing that can be looked at, because
Yeah.
I don't think Kenny and Rashica is a good right mid rotation, because you play a different game with Kenny than you do with Rashica, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
I
I think Kenny realises his potential. He's going to he has he's a left-footed creative player. So when he realises his potential, he could potentially be like a Gazelle or something like that. When he realises that potential, I think he needs to work there to get that. He's get more player than Gazelle does. He's a bit faster as well. I'd say not extremely fast, but he's faster.
Quite fast. He's quite fast.
Khan 2.0 says that idiot Rashica seems to be going. Yes. First of all, Khan, give me more info. Why do you say that? Second of all, if that's true, if it were true, if we're definitely getting rid of Rashica, then it opens up this entire conversation, because we're clearly going to need a backup right wing if not Kenny starting, and so then we can have this whole But I think if we're stuck with Rashica, we're almost better off bringing him off the bench. Rashica, I mean, because he has the ability to slide in at a few different positions. I mean, obviously, then we're struggling with the, who's starting for us? Do we have foreigners on the bench? I mean, ideally, we would have like 3 really good Turks who are definitely starting. That would sort of enable us to have that sort of flexibility. The problem is, like, besides Mert, do we have any other Turks in our starting lineup? Like, no, right? No.
Emirhan maybe.
Not as a starter.
Well, you'd imagine he starts a fair amount of games, though.
Yeah,
Sometimes, he allows that. Yeah, if you're rotating bits and pieces here, yeah.
No, yeah.
But, I mean, so
forced rotation probably, but
I have to say, in that regard, one of the rumors that I was the most favorable towards was the Salih Özcan one. I can't really speak to his quality, to be honest, but he's clearly good enough that he could, push for a starting spot on the team. And then that would clear up some of these questions, right? We could afford to have, a Rashica on the bench or whomever else,
Yeah, but that's one of those things, I think, where if you're gonna keep a foreigner for the bench, I think it needs to be somebody like, for example, like a Svensson, somebody that if he was Turkish, should definitely keep him around. And I guess Rashica, if he was Turkish, should keep him around too. But that's more down to the fact that Turkish wingers are so hard to come by. But and as to, it looks like he's leaving. I mean, there were rumors a couple of weeks ago of interest from the Bundesliga and stuff, but like nothing of that has really heated up. And right now, I think that's one of the biggest issues is that
he says that Gladbach.
That was the rumor
Gladbach,
like 2-3 weeks ago,
Genoa.
but that hasn't heated up, and that's one of the biggest issues right now is that we have a lot of players, Musrati, Mucci, Rashica, Paulista maybe. Like, we have a lot of foreigners that in an ideal scenario, you offload them. And like when it comes to Mucci and Musrati, obviously you want to get money for them, like a decent fee. You want to get like 7-8 million for those guys. But right now, like, there's nothing that's heating up for them. Right? Like, it's kind of quiet. There's rumblings about interest from Saudi Arabia for Musrati, but no concrete offers. I haven't really heard much rumblings regarding interest in Mucci at all. Rashica, there have been some, but that's quieted down. It's gone quiet. So there's a lot of players we need to offload, and we're thinking of all these players that we want to bring in right now. But at the moment, the only player where other than Ciro Immobile, where there's concrete news, the only player that is looking likely to leave is Gedson, right? And this is a report from earlier quote from Murat Özen is that Beşiktaş actually have agreed terms with a Russian club for Gedson, but they are still trying to negotiate Benfica out of their 50%, and apparently Benfica are asking for 10 million for the 50%. Now, let's say we have an agreement with a club in Russia for let's say 30 million. Then the 10 million is not a terrible deal because then you're
we still make 5 extra.
Then you still make 20 minus the 6. So that's 14 million profit, and 20 of that 14 million would then go to the bank. So that's 2, and then another, what is it, like 600,000 or something, whatever. 2.6 million to the banks or something.
I think, the money going into the banks, is that not going towards to pay off our debt? So it's not really money lost, is it?
No, that depends. If there's open standing...
there's some interest probably.
If there's open standing interest, I think it'll go to the interest first, honestly.
Yeah.
But if there isn't, it would go off the debts, wouldn't it?
But regardless,
in a way, it's still interest that we're still going to have to pay regardless. So
yeah,
it's not quite lost money. It's not. Obviously, it's not ideal. You'd rather you keep all of it, but it's not like that 50% that's going to Benfica that is completely useless to us. At least it's going towards something.
Subscribe to the channel. And like I said, if it's 30 million, I'm just throwing a number out there, then 10 million minus, let's say, 3 million to the banks, and you're still getting 17 million euros in right now that you can put down as, okay, we generated 17 million euros this season. Because, of course, the 6 million that we spent on Gedson was a long time ago. So, yes, we spent that 3 years ago, but that doesn't really impact us right now. That's almost written completely off at this point anyway. So, that may also impact whether or not it's still count with the profit and stuff like that. So, I don't know how exactly they calculate that.
Shouts to Hussein John Kantar, new subscriber. Welcome to the team, fella.
Thank you.
I'm losing comments. All right, so we have Atil said that Kenny's gonna make us rich. Nasir says so he had some recommendations. Left wing, Zurico, direct, pacey, 2-footed, bags of potential. Defensive midfielder, 6. Zeruki, smart, solid in transition. Right back, Rorslev or Guy. I don't know how to pronounce some of these names. These names sound like EA Sports regens. Good engines, love to overlap and cross, would balance Jurasek well. I don't recognize any of these names, but they all sound intriguing. Nasser says this preseason will be a great opportunity to see if Kenny is genuinely ready to make the step up to first team football. No face. They should definitely start with Kenny if Rashica stays. Mario Vargas. Yes, I managed to catch you guys. What up, Eagles? What up, Mario? 1 and a 2 and a 3. No face. No one is paying for Mucci. There were rumors for a moment, but yeah, we haven't heard anything in a while. I mean, what's I think a little troubling is we haven't heard rumors about anyone in a while as far as outgoing. Yeah, but perhaps, maybe, hopefully that's part of the board's MO.
And the question is also, what does Mucci make, right? Because I've read stuff, and this is like, I don't know how much you can believe, but like suggestions that he makes close to 3 million a year. I don't know if that's true. I hope to God it's not. But that's another one of those things. If he does make that type of money, then who is realistically going to come in for him, right? Because you're always...
That's the problem we have with Rashica as well, folks who are unaware. Like, it's not so much like, sure, he's productive and, a team might see his stats and be like, well, we could use a guy like that. But the other problem is, are they going to pay his salary? And,
Yeah. 2.1 a year, I believe, now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is ridiculous, man.
Mucci's wage was never really, like... There wasn't never really info.
I think I've got a feeling it's about 1.7 or something, which is way more than what he was getting at Legia.
That would be fine though. That's something you can work with, but 3 million isn't. And the problem is, like, usually we get like these credible leaks of what players make, so that we kind of know. But with Mucci and with Musrati, it was never really leaked at all. We never knew. So now, for all we know, they're on 1.3 million a year, or they're on 3 million a year, right? And that changes things.
Yeah, I think Musrati's on like 2.5.
Probably, yeah.
Good segue. So someone said, I don't know if Mucci goes or not. This is Con 2.0. But I think we can get some good amount of money. I think we can get a good amount of cash for Musrati and Rashica. Now, again, I just mentioned Rashica's salary, which might be a sticking point for him.
I don't think you can get a good amount. I've said this before on the show, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of clubs who are willing to pay a decent fee for Rashica, because 2 million net a year is a very tall order for most European
It's a
clubs.
tough salary to match.
That's that's 4 and that's like 3.9. Thank you, another new subscriber.
Another
Musab
subscriber.
Akkin
Shout out to
subscribed the channel.
Musab Akjan. Man, we're rolling in today.
That's like, that's the thing.
Sorry.
That's like 3.9 million euros for Mönchengladbach to pay on Rashica if they want to match his net salary at Beşiktaş, right? So that's like 3.94 million a year, and then they haven't even paid a fee yet. Yeah, I think if you can get a small fee for Rashica, and granted, we didn't pay all that much. What did we pay for Rashica? 5.5, something like that. It wasn't insane. It's a lot of money for us, but like, I don't know. When I first heard of the Borussia Mönchengladbach rumors, I was thinking, okay, maybe we can get a small fee for it. I don't know. Musrati, with the interest being Saudi Arabia, you'd imagine you can get 7-8 million.
You better, yeah.
Right? And Mucci, I don't know. Like, depends on what the market is, you know? Like, if clubs from Belgium and the Netherlands are looking at him, like, you're probably not looking at more than 4, 5, 6 million, which is probably not enough given the fact that we paid 10 for him. But realistically, from what we've seen from him in 18 months, he's not a 10 million player right now, I think.
No, not from what we've seen, no.
Yeah. So it's a tough one, right? Like, are you willing to take the loss and sell these guys at a loss? I personally, I think yes, because I think you want to get rid of them because they haven't worked out. And I think keeping players around that haven't worked out, who probably aren't super happy at the club anyway, because it's not been a great experience for them. Musrati probably doesn't want to be here anymore. Mucci, I don't know. I think Mucci probably has less of an issue with it, but in an ideal world, I think both of those guys would like to move on and get a fresh start. And you need to keep in mind with Mucci is, as long as Rafa is here, he's not going to really get a decent run of playing time in his favorite role. He's always going to probably play from the left side or from the right side, which isn't his strongest. You know, he doesn't have blistering pace. He's not somebody who takes on players consistently well. Like, his best attribute is his shooting ability, I think. And coming from the left or coming from the right, I haven't seen him rifle a lot of good shots at goal, honestly. So, I mean, we were having an argument or discussion earlier in one of our group chats that with Jurasek, I was going to say Jureska again, with Jurasek now on the wing, being, an overlapping winger, it allows Mucci to cut inside more and maybe play to his strengths more. But I don't know, man. I haven't seen it. Really, he's played a handful of good games this past season, and literally that's what it is, a handful, because we counted them Cataly, like 3 really good games probably.
Yeah, say five good good games.
Kind of good, right? Like, not even like I think his best game was probably the one against Athletic Bilbao, and then he had that substitution appearance against Samsunspor where he was really good. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But
you guys want to know my real opinion on that?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I mean, I'll need a moment. Whenever someone had a game that I considered good in my review, I like. It would take me a while to find it. But you're probably about right. Is basically what I'm saying. Yeah. I used the green pen when someone had a good.
I'd love to hear the data.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for the Schwarting report if you want more on that, which, by the way, should be in the next day or two since July is right around the corner. But yeah, I've done a full season review, full power rankings on every player on the team, all that. Anyway, but chat. So just to follow up what we were all saying already, TT No Face says Gedson is the only money cow in the team right now. Sell.
But we're only getting half of it, which makes it painful.
And you're not even considering that if you sell him, you've then created another big hole to fill, which it's not like you're probably not going to get a free transfer in that position, especially considering how pivotal it is for the whole team. So you'd have to spend some pretty good money to replace him as well.
I have to do some calculations. So we're just going to go off of let's say whatever above 6 million is profit, right? So let's say we sell him for 30, and then we give half to Benfica. Obviously, that's 15 to us, and then there's 5. That's 9 profits. So 20% of 9. That's like roughly 1.8 million or something. So we make, let's call it 13 million. If we sell him under the current conditions for 30 million, and 50% of that goes to Benfica, we make 13 million euros, roughly. So if we sell him for 30 million and we pay Benfica 10 million, so then we make the 20 million, of which 20 million, then we've spent 16. So then there's only 4 left to take off 20%. So then we're left with, what is that, like 16 points something. It's called 16 and a half. So the difference between us buying out his 50% from Benfica, if we get 30 million for him, which I don't think we will, but let's say we do, the difference is around 3 million euros. You make an extra 3 million euros, give or take. So it's really not that big. So yes, he is our most valuable player right now, but
again, you have to replace him, right? Which
you have to replace him, exactly, and that's one of those things. Gedson, I think there's a reason why he's our cash cow, why he's our most valuable player to sell right now. I think he's a tough one to replace. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do think, and maybe that's not a bad thing that you then take that 16 or 15 or 13 million and you reinvest it and you sign a really good player and you get 100% of his rights or 90 or 80 or 85. And then you actually don't have this headache to deal with down the road. But yeah, I don't know. Then you can.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that you then sign the next Muccio Musrati and you spend 12 or 13 million and guy ends up bombing. Right? There's always risk involved.
TT No Face. Ooh, we got a fight on our hands. I'm kidding. TT No Face says you can find a good midfielder for under 10 million any day.
Yeah.
Definitely someone with a better team spirit than Jedza. My only argument there.
What do you mean by team spirit, man?
Yeah, I don't know about the team spirit. I'm not buying team spirit.
The most effort over the last 3 years.
But also, you can find a good midfielder for under 10 mil, is what you're saying.
You can.
Al Musrati cost us 12. And he did not cut the mustard.
No, but you can find. You can.
Of course you can, but the reason I mentioned Al Musrati is
on a free transfer just now.
Who? Sorry.
I mean, Pasalic
is on a free just now. He's out of contract.
Yeah, but he's 30. Yeah?
He's 30, but he's still a good midfielder that you can find under 10 million. They can be found. Of course, they can be found.
You can take that 13 or 15 or whatever million you make on Gedson and you can invest it in a winger. You don't have to reinvest it in the midfielder if you can find a relative short. I mean, Pasalic's 30 years old. Like that's short term, but I mean that's still a player that 2-3 years potentially, right? So it's not that short term.
But there's no guaranteeing you can get him. And the reason I mentioned Al Musrati is that it's probably. I don't know what's more likely, that you get the player you need for less than 10 mil, or that you spend maybe a little more than 10 mil and the player isn't quite what you'd hoped for, right? Like it can go any way, is my point. And you're taking a strength from the team and replacing it with a big question mark, which that's given that we're trying to build in the right direction, there's there's a chance you derail the whole project.
With Gedson, you know what you've got, you know the quality you've got, you know what you can expect of him. If you bring in somebody new, he could turn out to be much better. You could bring in Pasalic and he could be great. He could also be Pjanic and be great for 2-3 games and then be absolute dog shit, right? Like there's no guarantees in football.
TT No Face says they've been picking games all season. That's what I meant with team spirit. Again, my argument.
Jetson's not a player that picks games.
No. And again, TT No Face, become a subscriber and watch the Schroding Report, because I'm going to do a very thorough review, and you'll see there are like 4 guys who played exceptionally regularly, consistently and at a really high level, and he was one of them. And 4 is maybe an exaggeration because like Mert and Masuaku were kind
going to
of.
give you a lot of effort and run every game. Obviously, there's the debate of whether or not he's effective against closed defences. Well, I'd say he's not effective because he doesn't really open them up. But you can never say that he picked games. He was always running, always pressing, always working hard, always winning balls. So
if anything, it's in those games where the other players didn't show up. It was Gedson who took the initiative and who took responsibility.
But it's just not his scout. That's not in his repertoire. It's just
it's not his strong suit.
Like,
he can't.
exactly.
He can on occasion decide a game with something brilliant, but it's not something he's going to do consistently. But he is always the guy. When Rafa but when Rafa had an off day and ghosted, it's Gedson who steps up and who tries to take initiative and tries to get the ball up the field. So I think Gedson right now in this squad, I think is the single most dedicated player who wants Beşiktaş to be successful. I think he's been a fabulous servant of the club, quite frankly.
And again, I'd say he's among the least of our problems. And given that we are a squad with so many problems and so many problems that need to be fixed relatively short term, I don't know that's like getting a manicure, right? We need to like take a shower first.
But he is
before
also
you're focusing on the details.
But he's also the only player that you can that can generate a good amount of cash that you can then reinvest into 2 or 3 other players. He's because
that's true.
Because that's the thing with Musrati. Can we get 7 or 8 million for him? Probably. It's dragging out a little bit. Like, I'll put it this way.
Yeah, I think we'll sell Musrati, but
I think so
it's
too.
a matter, is it going to happen now? Well, we'd rather it, and it means we can get a replacement straight away, or is it going to happen in August or even September?
And with Gedson, if you want, Gedson's gone like that. Like, you can sell him tonight if you want. He's the only player right now in this squad that has high demand and that clubs are lining up for and have the cash ready for. We have other players who clubs are interested in, but they're not really, they're still kind of, do we want to spend that on this guy? Like they're still window shopping. But Gedson, they're ready to pull the trigger. That's the only one we got on the squad, and that makes him a valuable commodity. But it also makes it tricky because, can we replace him with somebody at least equally good? Maybe with different qualities, but that's a tough one.
Do you guys think there's any chance, and I genuinely ask this, I'm not saying I hope this is the case or anything, because I don't know. I mean, at this point, I think the ship sailed, but do you think there's any chance that Ole being given a little more time around Al Musrati kind of falls for him in his game a little bit?
It's one of those things we were talking about earlier in our other chat, really, with the whole discussion about how would we play if we have 2 wingbacks. And I suggested, I think Musrati is actually, because Gatel said, I don't think we have a 6.
Maybe you keep him as an anchor, play him
So my
concern in that regard was his dual stats, because whereas for Monaco and Braga's dual stats were fine, but when he played for us, like they weren't overtly a strength either. They were passable for me.
Yeah, they're kind of meh.
Although Cartel,
you and I were both very bad for the most part.
But Cartel, you and I were both
dropping back into that position. But his passing and his ability to start the game and get the game ticking, obviously, like, you'd be hard pressed to find someone better at that than him in that situation.
Well, the reason I say that, Cartel, is you and I were both always a little flummoxed by his positional. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, he wasn't sticking to where he needed to be in the pitch as much as he needed to, so he'd often be caught a little too far up the field, and he's not quick enough to get back and defend. And so he'd get kind of caught, and so the tackles he was trying to make were coming from behind, and he was in a bad position. One wonders, and I think maybe Khan was suggesting this, if you position him like further back, almost as a dedicated anchor in front of the back line,
I think
maybe you can kind of offset some of those.
That was my argument.
What you're actually referring to there is actually very important. I'm going to get to that now. I think, more than that being on him, I think that's more on the coaches. Because if you're a coach, you should know Musrati's not a guy that you send to the press. because that's not his strong suit. He's slow, he's sluggish. Like, whereas if you put him just in front of the centre backs, and then obviously in possession you can drop him in between. Then if you send the wing backs forward, in that regard, if he's not going too far forward, he's not going to have to run back, as you're saying, and then we will get with the whole game in front of him. We'll get to see his best ability, which is like sending
his distribution.
His distribution, exactly.
Which we love. You and I were big fans.
And we saw it against Athletic Club, which was one of his last games for us, right?
And
also, he left almost straight after that, I think, didn't he?
And also, maybe his dual stats would be better if he wasn't wasting his energy going to the press.
Exactly.
Maybe because he wasn't being sent to the press at Braga, that's why his dual stats were better. So who knows?
Yeah,
it could work.
Yeah,
that idea has been bouncing around my mind.
Yeah,
it's funny, you guys were talking about it in the group chat.
Yeah, you eliminate that pressure from
it.
behind, because I think, like you pointed out, and there's also something I was talking about earlier with Gatla, is one of his biggest issues for us has been that he gets caught. We call it caught napping, because then somebody steals the ball from behind or presses it.
Yeah, on the counter.
He gets pressed from multiple angles, and then he loses the ball in a silly way, and it ends up dangerously. But if he, for example, if we play with wingbacks and he drops down in between the two central defenders, then he only has to worry about the game in front of him.
Exactly.
And I think regardless, Musrati is best with the game in front of him, because his biggest strength is distributing the ball with long passes to the wings and all that kind of stuff. So for a player like that, having everything in front of him makes more sense. That's why I think, like Katla pointed out as well, like when he was in a more advanced midfielder role higher up the pitch, you're kind of taking away his strengths in a way.
Yeah,
and I think with a player like Musrati, you really need to play to his strengths, because he does have clear deficiencies. But if you do play to those strengths, he is a very, very good player. And I think we did see that in the Athletic Bilbao game. I think we played to his strengths there. And I think if Ole would say, okay, I want to give this another go, that's possible. And I think if nobody comes in with cold hard cash for him, I think you almost kind of owe it. You almost kind of owe it to yourself to maybe give it a try. But then again,
the only thing I'm worried about is where's House head at, because Sardar said
because he's been tried to get
the facilities. Karen and I discussed on the not the last live stream we done, but when we done the just a pre-recorded episode,
transfer talk video.
Yeah, the transfer talk video. We were talking about how the connection with him and the fan base is severed, and it seems to be that he is really someone that is affected by negative talk in the media or on social media. And that is kind of proven by the fact that
that's a question mark.
His bags were packed when Sardar arrived to the facilities. I mean, that's what Adala said that himself. We know that's a true quote. Maybe he was exaggerating the situation. I don't know, but it seems to be the case where like he's not wanting to stay. So, like, will he be in the right frame of mind to be a dependable player for us for a full season? Obviously, when we've seen him play his best games, we know he is good enough. But will he be in the frame of mind to produce that kind of performance? That's a question mark.
Yeah, it is a question mark for sure. And it's weird, because in a way I'm not high on either staying, but I am actually more high. I'm more high on the possibility of, for example, Musrati staying than Mucci, because for Musrati, I think if you can make him work. I don't think you can make Mucci work, because Mucci,
I mean, certainly not with Rafa there, right?
No, exactly. Like, as long as Rafa is there, who is a much better player, that's not even a discussion, and that's no knock on Mucci. That's not a knock on Mucci. Rafa is genuinely
man. How many players are better than Rafa?
Exactly. He's he's easily top 3 in the Super League of the best players, and I think that's being modest. Who's better than Rafa, really? So, but as long as Rafa is there, and Rafa is also the type of player, like, God forbid he gets an injury this season, but like, he plays every match. He played every single game last season, didn't miss a single match. So then as Mucci,
what do you do, right?
Like, like I think if you want,
he's way too pricey to be a super sub. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Hey, Cartel, can you check out what they're talking about real quick on Twitter or whatever?
What was that on Twitter?
They're saying is Andreas Skov Olsen coming?
There's just been rumours, man. There's nothing concrete.
Okay, so nothing's coming.
They're supposedly interested. But even the sources that are reporting that, it's like Cartelis Taberman. It's not like official media organisations. It's like Twitter pages that are saying it.
No,
maybe one of the bigger guys has said it. Maybe I'm forgetting something.
Maybe something just broke or something and we missed it, but
yeah, that's why it was.
For the time being,
fresh, man. I can't see anything to be honest.
But Lux is a Danish name, a very common Danish name. So maybe Lux is a fan of Andreas Skov Olsen. I'm not sure. So for now, Lux, unfortunately, we can't say whether he's coming or not. There's rumors, and I think Wolfsburg are not unkeen to offload him. Why, I'm not 100% sure, because I mean we did look at the data earlier a little bit, Kartal, and his chance creation stats are really good. I don't think he scored a bunch of goals for them, but the thing is, I noticed from his time at Brugge, like he's a bit of a tricky guy. He's known to be a little bit grumpy behind the scenes. He's not always the best trainer, not always motivated. So maybe in Germany, that's something, obviously in Germany, they have very high standards when it comes to effort in training. So maybe that's an issue with him. I'm not sure. But he's a brilliant player, of course. I mean, at Club Brugge, he was amazing when he wanted to be. And that's one of the problems with him is that, like, when he feels like it on the day, he's a world beater. But he can also, send his cat, so to speak, his proverbial cat.
Potentially, Quaresma was a player that was always seen as kind of inconsistent and maybe picked his moments. But do you think maybe a connection with a fan base like Quaresma formed with their fan base could be the catalyst to more consistency for him?
Well, the impression...
We'd probably have to ask someone who knows the player, I suppose, real well.
The problem with that is, I think Quaresma is a football... He lives, sleeps, eats, and breathes football. I don't think Skov Olsen is that type of a person, because I think for him, he's really good at football. He's somebody who happens to be really good at football, but doesn't necessarily enjoy it that much, doesn't live for the game. Ricardo Quaresma, to this day, he's 41 years old now, he's still playing these charity events constantly, and if it were up to him, he'd still be playing professionally, right? Like, he just loves to be on the pitch, he loves playing football. I don't think
he was...
Deus Dominus subscribe to the channel.
What the fuck is going on today? Welcome, Deus Dominus.
Thank you.
Big day.
Thank you for subscribing. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. But I mean, for Skov Olsen, maybe a connection.
Also, like our video, folks.
Yeah,
sorry.
please leave a like on the video. That really helps the video to get out to other people. But I think maybe you're right, Skattel. If there would be a good connection with the fan base, maybe that would have an impact on him. I think it's difficult to say, because Belgian football is really different. I'm not saying you can't have a connection with the fan base there, but it's not like here. In Turkey and Beşiktaş, if the fans love you like they do Rafa, like they did Quaresma, the things they'll do for you, they'll they'll sing you songs, they'll serenade you, they'll all those kind of stuff. So it's maybe that could turn it a little bit for him, but I don't know. He's a different animal than Quaresma is for sure.
The group chat's about blowing up. All right, so we got not the group chat. I mean the comment section. So Sal BJK, good to see you, Sal. Says, yeah, the boys. Contour, but no, let's say 3 million for Gedson and 42 for Batia. Yeah, that would be the slickest way to do
it.
Then we have Rafael Rustemov. He says salam. Man, I'm loving all these new names in the chat. That's
please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.
Yeah, follow, subscribe, like all the videos. Check out our Patreon. Check out our special features. Nasser, Gedson would be a big loss. If he's sold, he brings energy, drive, and balance to the midfield. But if the club can bring in a high-quality box-to-box replacement, then it could be a smart move overall.
Yeah.
And that's the big if, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it comes down to. If they can secure the replacement, if they have that lined up, I think it makes 100%.
I think you have to trust in
logical.
They have a plan. If they sell Gedson, they have a plan for that money. You have to trust.
They would have to, yeah. And maybe that's why we haven't seen it happen.
Settle Adala has even said that. Like, I think Settle Adala has really publicly, really expressed his admiration for Gedson. Really values him. Thinks he's very valuable for us. And he's said in the past, if we can agree a deal with Benfica, then we're just gonna extend this contract and keep him. And maybe that's bluff. Maybe that's a bluff poker there. But I think Gedson is that player that if you sell him, there's definitely scenarios under which it's prudent to sell, but they need to be right. Like, we can't just sell him for the sake of selling him. Like, he is a player that the stars need to align. And the offer needs to be north of 25 million for it to be worth it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm all right. We got some questions. Contube, I know damage has already been done. I would sell him for 7 or 8 mil. He's talking about Mucci, I think.
Yeah.
Or
right,
maybe
you need to get those offers. You need to get the offers, right?
Nasser says, I imagine there's a good chance João Mario stays, and to be fair, he could be a solid squad option to have around. And then TT No Face. Yeah, me too. I loved João Mario by the end of the year.
From the players we have right now that you don't necessarily see as a starter, I think he is the one that makes the most sense to keep for the bench from the foreigners.
And I even think there's a good chance we didn't see him starting more just because he wanted to give guys like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, whatever, put them in the window
maybe
to hopefully get to offload them. So I think, he could have an increased role without some of the scrubs.
But there was that quote seen on after the game against Başakşehir, and
I remember that one. The low effort thing.
I don't think Ole is necessarily the biggest. Although, then you've had Ole talk.
He is the one who brought him up.
Portuguese mafia and stuff like that. So I don't know. And they said that in a funny way, of course, in a positive way. But I don't know. It would be nice to get an insight on how Ole feels about the players, right? That would be great if we could see
I wish we could have him on the podcast. Let's invite him on. Ole.
Can we see your evaluation sheet there and compare notes with Sinan?
That's right. Yeah. Rank them.
Yeah.
And TG No Face later on said, "Are there any offers for João Mario yet?" And there was talk of something from Brazil for a while.
Saudi Arabia as well.
Al-Fateh, right? That was a rumor.
Saudi Arabia as well, huh?
I don't know about Brazil.
We'll see.
Brazil, I haven't seen anything from...
I thought there was a Brazil thing. Maybe that was Paulista. Maybe I'm confusing him with Paulista.
Corinthians supposedly wanting Paulista.
Yeah, Corinthians.
Yeah, that's what it was. Where was I lost track because I was looking for that question.
Well, there's an all caps question we might wanna get to.
Yeah, so Osman supposedly
Murder Merit. Welcome.
Osman, supposedly it's a done deal. Everything's been signed, but I'd imagine we'll get the official announcement tomorrow when the player arrives.
Yeah, exactly. The player is coming from Mexico. He was probably on holiday there with his wife and kid.
Yeah, he was.
So he left how many hours ago? He departed Mexico, Gathel? I think when we started the podcast, roughly.
Yeah. So if that was correct,
he's barely over New York yet by now.
Oh, yeah, it's like a 13-hour flight or something. So it doesn't mean anything. Beşiktaş doesn't need to announce this. The paperwork just needs to be done, and it just needs to be sent in. And
wave to his airplane.
Yeah, so
flying over.
It's only important for Roma for their financial fair play stuff. So as long as that paperwork is done, and Fabrizio Romano reported earlier that the paperwork is done already, so he's just on his way. So Beşiktaş will announce it tomorrow when he arrives, and once he goes through the medicals is usually when the official announcement comes. They might announce his arrival time, but in terms of the official announcement of signing him, that only comes after the medical. So the fact that there isn't anything official from the club channels yet doesn't mean anything. So you don't need to worry. That's how it always is. It's not abnormal.
Our dear financier says, by the way, you guys passed the 900 subscriber mark. 1K in sight. Like, follow, and subscribe.
Yeah.
We've already got quite a few subscribers today, so keep it coming.
Yeah.
Hussein Sadiq Bolat, another new name. What is that? Where am I? I don't know, man. You better get a glass of water, deep breaths. Hopefully you'll figure these things out.
I don't know where you are, but
please
hit the subscribe button.
What's funny is, so Kant he just came into the chat and he's green. I'm still orange. I hate orange. The irony is that on YouTube his name is in orange, or the H, and you're in blue, Khan 2.0.
I think you can.
And then later on, Khan says he hates green as well. So I'm taking it you're not an Alanyaspor fan, Khan, because you hate orange and green.
What color do the members have? Like Nasser and... Is Nasser a member on YouTube? He's a member on Patreon. I'm not sure if he's a member on YouTube. But
he's not.
If you become a YouTube member, your color changes as well. I think you become like dark red or something like that. I'm not sure. So give it a try, I'd say.
Plus, you get the Schwarting report.
You do.
Anyway.
You get the Schwarting report. And you get the VIP podcast and all that kind of stuff. Same thing on Patreon.
Yeah, lots of content. Tons of content, yeah. But yeah, your seniority does not give you color selection. Sorry, Con 2.0. You are in a parallel... Con 2.0 is answering the where am I?
I think
it
does.
You are in a parallel universe.
I think the amount of times you comment on a stream does influence the color you get. But maybe because Con has been in a couple of streams, his color defaults back. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I do think it has an impact.
He says purple is the best. Actually, green is my favorite color. While we're on the topic, sorry.
Mine is black and white, bitches.
Well, those aren't colors. Those are shades, man. Different. Black is like, I mean, I wear black most days of the week. Anyway. We're talking about colors. That's where we are in the podcast. It's been a long one. You're in a parallel universe where Beşiktaş is a global giant and has supporters everywhere. That's Con 2.0's answer to his "Where am I?" question. And then Carlito says, "Just like your name, orange is yours in the Black Eagles podcast realm." Sorry, pal. Deus Dominus. Hi, all. Welcome, Deus. And then he asked a question. I think, yes. He says, any new progress about right back? I saw some rumors with Walker Peters and Semedo. And yes, we talked about those rumors quite a bit earlier in the podcast. Definitely go back and check out the podcast, listen to it again, if you want to hear our thoughts on all of those guys. As far as anything new coming in, I'll put Cartel on the assignment. He's just sat back down. Cartel, you want to do a quick sweep of Twitter to see if there's any new rumors about our right back situation? That was a question asked.
There's nothing new, it's just the same as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Carlito Del Carmen with the black and white little dots added. That's nice. Deus Dominus. Oh, we did that. Osman Akyol. Okay, thanks about the info. No problem, sir. Nasser, are you guys fairly content with our central back options, or do you think we still need one more? Personally, I'd like to see us bring in another central back. Not sure Paulista can handle a full season on his own. I will say for sure, Nasser, that it would be nice to have some more, at least a solid backup for Gabriel Paulista. Nejip is back.
I personally think we should part ways with Paulista and sign a different right centre back. I can't.
Then do you think Cartel? Do you think we need two? We need a backup. Also?
Ideally, I'd want to, but I think I'd be content with one just now, but one is could play a full season.
But what if Paulista stays, Cartel? Do you think we need somebody then?
I think maybe we should sign like a young, promising centre back.
Like Emre
Ideally a Turk, right? Oh.
It could be.
What if he has a comeback? Maybe
Ole's left-footed though. He's a left.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Let's say we loan out Elan Ricardo. Maybe we could find like a really promising young under 21 centre back, and we can rotate him with Paulista.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if we could have a Turk.
Göztepe have a great young Turkish center back. I forget his name. Talha or Taha? What's his name?
Oh yeah.
What's his name again? I think he's like 21 years old. Göztepe's central defender. Katla, come on, you're from Izmir. You should know this. What's his name?
Not Talha Şahin, right? He's the fullback.
No, that's the fullback. Yeah, no, I think his name is
Talha Akdeniz.
Taha, I think.
Altikardeş.
Yes,
Altikardeş.
yes.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Like he's pretty good. That'd be an interesting option, I think. But you're probably paying a lot of money then, and I don't want to.
But how about Meri Demiral? I'm just kidding. Who knows what's going on with that dude?
Koray Günter.
Is Mary still in Saudi Arabia?
He's still in Saudi. Yeah. Where's Koray Günter now? He came to Turkey, but I forget.
Who's Kartal Genç? The young Kartal. We got. That's like a version of a 2.0. He says Talha Gunderilmeli.
He's talking about we should get rid of Tayyip Talha.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That guy can get the fuck out.
I mean, there were relatively concrete rumors about him. Kasım Pasha wanted him, but they wanted Beşiktaş to pay half of his wages or something, and
the coaches changed. And the coaches changed as well. As Burak Yilmaz who wanted them, and now Şota Tavallaey is the coach because Burak and Kasım Pasha apparently they couldn't agree on transfers. So Burak.
Because he wanted fucking Tayyip Talha. Anyway,
Kasım Pasha love changing their coaches up, man. Like they are not shy about sacking coaches, and the worst,
changing their undies.
And the worst part about it is that they don't get punished for it. Like they've had this season was pretty comfortable.
They should be relegated.
Right? Like
they really need to be fucking relegated.
Man, I would love to see them in the amateur leagues, man. I'd love to see that. Like that's one of those has no added value to the league. Absolutely no added value. Same thing with
Deus Dominus.
Yeah.
Deus Dominus says we need a right-footed stopper for defensive rotation. I cannot watch one more game with two left-footed central defenders. Tayyip Talha can't give us anything after that bad. After his last horrible season, maybe we'll try to get Ozan Kabak. I mean, he talk about injury prone. That's the problem with him.
And
I think I'd almost rather marry Demiral, even though I think Ozan is younger. Just given, I mean, not that Mary is especially healthy career-wise, but I think he's done better than Ozan.
I know it's a bit of a meme, but yeah, Necip is back, and I think if you are in a position where you feel you still need to get someone else, then why is Necip on the team, right? Like his role should be being part of that central defender's rotation, and he's the right-footed central defender, right, in that rotation. So if you're, and I agree, don't get me wrong, like I this is my opinion. I don't think Necip has any business being on the squad. Like I know he's a longevity legend and all that kind of stuff, but like realistically, is he good enough? Like 10 years ago, he wasn't good enough. Let alone now, after his injury, and we've
had this. We've been receiving shit for this for a decade, Con.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you.
I mean, Katha, what do you think about it, honestly? Because
I keep Necip in the team.
Yeah, but why do you keep Necip? It's pure emotion, right? Let's be honest.
I think he's a locker room leader as well, and he's a good example to the young Turkish players. And I've heard from a primary source as well that he's a top guy as well. So
yeah, but is that enough? Is that enough?
TT No Face says no more ex-Galatasaray and Fener trash.
No, I agree.
I guess that's Ozan Kabak, right?
Yeah.
Ozan was the Galatasaray guy.
I think he can stay just to be a mentor to the.
But if he stays, then he needs to take up that spot in the rotation. If he's not good enough to take up that spot, then he needs to go. Simple as that. Or he needs to join the coaching staff.
I think
at a reduced salary.
You don't think he could be like a fifth option where it's like an emergency break glass and release Necip?
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't really even care that much. Like, it's fine. Guys, look though, we have a young prospect. This is the type of shit I want to know about. Hey, Con 2.0, you want to be our youth? I'll give you a segment on the Schwarting Report if you want to do a little refresher on what's going on in the academy every month. But I have no idea. And this is great, you know. So he says that we have a young prospect in academy for central defender whose name is Mustafa Azem Yortaç. I've never heard of the name. And I've been asking, on the podcast for I feel like years if we do have anyone. I feel like ever since who was that prospect we had who busted his leg right before he went out on loan?
Alpay Çelebi?
Yes, Alpay. Ever since then, I feel like we've lacked the real.
Well, there's always kids in the academy that look decent, but there's always a lot of hype.
You can't bank on it though, yeah.
You need to see them play professional football first. And, that just goes back to the argument that we've made so many times that we need a way to get those kids professional minutes when they hit 17, 18 years old. They need to, instead of playing in a ridiculously low quality under 19 league, like for example, take Adnan Karahisar right now. There's all this uproar because he didn't get selected for the under 19 team. And don't get me wrong, I think that's 100% justified, that uproar. But at the same time, the under 19 team consists out of a lot of players who are playing professional football already. And then you have, he's the top scorer of the under 19 league. But the under 19 league is fucking dog shit, Like, you need, someone like Adnan Karahisar, he should be playing for our second team in the İkinci League or something like that, or in the Birinci League. That's what we need. I've said this a million times, I'll say it a million more. That is what we need, because that's the only way that we can get these young players from our academy, and right now, 95% of them end up in the amateur leagues, and they don't make it in professional football. I think we can.
Whatever happened with that Umraniyespor thing that we were trying to set up?
That's happened so many times. Ago. No, that happened like 2 years ago.
Not even like 5 years ago, right?
No, 1 or 2 seasons.
Or like the was it Westerlo? Remember there was something happening in Belgium even.
Oeselare in Belgium.
Yeah,
that was 2013. We had an agreement with them. It broke down because Beşiktaş were unable or unwilling to pay the annual fee of €500,000. I know this for a fact. I spoke to the person in charge of the club at the time. I still speak to him to this day, by the way. There was a deal in place. Papers were prepared. All it lacked was the signatures at the time. There's been multiple times in the last decade plus, Beşiktaş have been on the verge of making a deal with a club for becoming their pilot team. And there have even been moments where we signed deals with clubs. We signed a deal with a Dutch club a couple of years ago for cooperation with scouting and all that kind of, and information exchange and all that kind of stuff. But nothing ever comes of it because we change our presidents like we change our underwear, and these types of projects always fall to the wayside. The only thing that I think is very frustrating is that this in 2013 happened under Fikret Orman, and he was president until 2019. So he's the only one who could have made that. Yeah, he could have seen it through, but he didn't because he didn't want to spend the $500,000 on something like that. And the frustrating thing is he didn't want to spend the $500,000 on that. He didn't want to spend 250, 300,000 or 500,000 euros on the hybrid, to maintaining the hybrid gym properly. The hybrid pitch that we had. Let that flounder. So we cut costs in so many places while we were bringing in players for like Negredo and Pepe on $4.5 million a year. But we cut these costs that probably for the long term of the club would have been better. But it's I hope that Settle Adal is going to be successful and that there's going to be some stability that the club really needs, and that at some point somebody gets in his ear and says, "Hey, we really need, if we wanna bolster or if we want to do something with our academy, we need to make sure that these young kids, when they are 16, 17, 18 years old, if they're good enough at 16 years old, they should be playing professionally already." 17, that's why Ajax is so successful. Like their kids, their 16, 17-year-olds are playing in the Keukenkampioen Divisie in the second tier of Dutch football week in, week out. So of course that's why every year they have an army of young kids that are ready to take that step. Like Fitz Jim that scored against us this season, and he tore us apart.
He was good.
I didn't even know who he was. Like
I'd never even heard of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're good at doing
They have those types of players every year coming through. You never even they were on us superficial fans. I mean, I'm sure Ajax fans knew who they were, but I didn't know who it was. Right. And it's not like I don't follow the Eredivisie properly, you know. Like I don't follow it that good anymore, but superficially at least.
No, but I mean, your point stands though, for sure. Like we should be able to do that. Like this Kartal Kaida thing has been sort of hovering around us for like 5 years. How is it that there's only one player that we can even have these conversations about? It's just ridiculous.
But look,
I fully agree. Deus Dominus says we needed some pilot clubs at lower leagues. Trabzonspor did it well before with 1461. Trabzon,
and they got lots of players from that, right? Like they and not necessarily
didn't Enis Destan come from there?
No, he came from Altinordo, but they had like a bunch of players that came through. I think like Zeki Yavru, Mustafa Yumlu, maybe. Yusuf Erdogan, definitely. I think maybe Yusuf Yazici spent some time there. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe Abdul Karim Umar, I'm not 100% sure on that either. But like a lot of their players spent time there, and a lot of those players became not necessarily stars or anything, but like squad players for a good few years. And that's enough, right? If you can get if your academy can bring you squad players and give you a rotation of squad players for years and years and years. Like, okay, maybe they play for you 2-3 seasons and then you move on to the next guys. But if they can provide you with that saves you a lot of money. Instead of spending 2.5 million euros on Emre Can Uzunhan and stuff like that. And on, for example, Talha Şahin now from Rizespor, who is on our radar to be a rotational right back. Maybe we could have had a proper right back from our academy, Zeki Yavru was that for Trabzonspor for many years. And I'm not saying Zeki Yavru was great, but they had a homegrown fullback.
Yeah, so what the fuck happened to Abdul Kadir Omur?
Tore his ACL.
What happened to that dude?
Tore his ACL, then kind of floundered a little bit, played for Trabzon for a couple more years, then got sold to Hull City. And last season he was loaned out to Antalyaspor. I think Antalya, right? But
Rizespor, but apparently he barely played.
No, that's Parmak. That's Abdulkadir Parmak, I think.
No, that's Omur.
Are you sure? Isn't he playing? Didn't he play for Antalyaspor last season on loan?
It says he played. I mean, it's Google, so that their search has been pretty fucked up lately. But it says he played six matches for Rizespor last year, which is shit, dude.
And he's on like 1 million net at Hull City, by the way. So.
Yeah, wow, dude, we're getting the comment section is blowing up with new names. This is thrilling. Okay, oh boy, here we go. I'm gonna need some translator. Kartal, you ready? You ready? Gokhan says, I'm not sure if I'm ready. Sia Ulan Beyaz Ulan.
So basically, he's saying he's wishing us good broadcast, and he's saying hello from Izmir. İzmir'e selamlar
Reggio. Or that's Reggio. Selam, iyi yayınlar.
Yeah, so he's just wishing
that one I got. No, I meant the other one. So he said, Sia Ulan Beyaz Ulan. Oh, is this not here? Gokhan said, Sia Ulan, Beyaz Ulan.
It's just that chant.
Yeah.
Ulan.
Ulan is like it's like an exclamation
mark. I thought
mark.
Ulan means like idiot. I thought Ulan meant idiot or something.
No. Ulan is like exclamation mark essentially. Like you put a lot of emphasis on the word you just said in front of it.
İngiltere'den transfer haberi var mı acaba? Sterling, Son, Kyle. Ya şu Kyle Walker-Peters ve ilgili haberler var ya. O gelebilir. Yani Sterling'in hakkında da haberler vardı ama daha net bir şey yok Rejo Bey.
No, that was just a rumor, Sterling. By the way, guys, for those of you who speak Turkish and don't really understand English, we do, like the day after this is live, like once it's done processing, we do add Turkish subtitles to this. So,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Teşekkür ederiz Rejo Bey.
I'm a busy bee.
You just said okay, I'm becoming a subscriber.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. And like our video too, Recep. Khan 2.0 said, there you go, another green newbie. He's so worried about your color. But he also said, and this is something we could actually talk about. I mean, this might be our last comment. It seems like we're just about wrapping up here. He says, I believe the pilot team should not be in Turkey for proper development. We could collaborate with a Belgian or Portuguese team. That's something we've talked about a few times
it's
on Aircon, maybe before your time.
Yeah, but it's a little bit complicated, unfortunately, because as a Turk, you don't have an EU passport, so it's harder to get those kids out into a European country. I think it's a little bit harder. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just a little bit more difficult. I agree with you, by the way. I would much rather have a proper pilot team in the Netherlands or in Belgium. But I think if you have a dedicated pilot team in Turkey that you control 100%, I think that would work too. And I think why not have both, right? You could have one in Turkey where you have all your kids play, and then you after every season,
maybe you're more promising, and like a semi.
The really good ones, like the Mustafa Hekimos of the world, those you send to the Netherlands or to Belgium, for example. But then, that would be ideal. But then, for example, somebody like Berkay Kençtemir, for example, he's gone now. But for example, him, you could leave him in the Turkish team and maybe develop him and or Kartal Kayra Yilmaz, maybe. I mean, Kartal Kayra Yilmaz when he was 18.
Gone?
Berkay, yeah, we sold him, yeah, unfortunately.
Kençtemir?
Yeah.
Fuck, really?
But like Kartal Kayra, I don't remember at 18-19 how good he was. I think he played a couple of games that season that Abdullah Avcı was coach, right? And didn't he play against Wolves and stuff like that in the Europa League? I don't really remember. Was he a really big talent or not? I can't really recall. I know Kartal liked him, but I think there was some name bias.
1 second. Con 2.0. I'm not going to give you my email on air because I don't want random people writing me emails. Join the group chat, man.
Yeah,
I'll give it to you in there for sure. Check out the WhatsApp group chat. You don't have to pay for anything to get access to it. No. Check that out. Check out our Patreon.
You can just become if you go to Patreon and you become a free member, you can see the post with the link. You don't have to pay. Yeah. You just see the post. But the reason we put it behind that is because otherwise we had it publicly before and we just kept getting million and million spammers. Now we still get the occasional spammer, but it's okay. It's not too bad. But before that, we were getting every day so many joining and spamming, and we had to remove them and ban them. This is horrible. So it's behind a registration wall essentially. So if you just go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast, you become a member there, just a free member. Then you can see some posts. You can see then the free posts and the pinned free post. It is only viewable if you're a member, a free member, or an existing member, but not if you are just anonymously browsing it, if that makes sense, right? So if you're not registered and not joined our Patreon, then you can't see it, but you can just watch it as a free user as long as you join.
And once you're in the group chat, I'll write you individually and we can set the whole thing up like I have with Ural. But yeah, we'll work it out. There's a whole Turkish thing going on in the group chat that I think, oh my god, and now we have another one. Hey guys, practice your English, man. Come on, that's what we're here for.
So I'll just go through the Turkish comments then.
Hey, put him big time.
Do we have the code of Tammy Abraham?
So Reggio was asking about Son. I don't think we won't sign Son. He's too old.
No. If anyone's going to sign Son, Fenerbahçe will sign him.
Genç isimleri yönelmemiz gerekiyor bence. Ya tabii ki de çok iyi bir oyuncu ama daha genç isimlere yönelmemiz gerekiyor bence. And then Deus Dominus asked about Depay. Again, Depay's too old. He's past it, man. I think.
Also, lots of. He had the ACL injury, but he also had the lasting effect of the ACL injury, where his other leg started compensating for it, and then he's just started getting muscle injury after muscle injury after muscle injury. So that is one of.
And then Reggio said keşke Anthony olsaydı Q7 tarzı eski bence şimdi Real Betis keşke. Ama zor ya. Bayağı maliyetli olacağını düşünüyorum. Bize düşmesi biraz zor.
Anthony.
So I was just saying that just if we could sign Anthony, he says he's like Quaresma, he used to play for Man U, now for Betis. Well, he's still Man U's player technically, but I think he said he'll only play for Betis, and he's just too expensive for us.
Betis did not trigger the clause, but the problem with him is probably they paid 85 million euros for him, I think. or close to 100
Yeah,
million.
it's
It might have been 85 million pounds. Like they'll.
It's too expensive, man.
Yeah, it'll cost like 35, 40 million probably.
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
I don't know what Betis' option was, but yeah.
Regio's saying that we can ask him questions about Beşiktaş. He says we've got a youth player, Adnan Karahisar, who we actually spoke about.
We spoke about
Can 2.0 saying he's an old dude, so he'll try and figure out the Patreon thing. He'll try that. We should maybe change his name to Can Abi then instead of Can 2.0.
Can, if you go to Patreon, like you can just, if you have Gmail or something, I think you can just sign up with your Gmail account.
Wow, the group chat's getting unruly over here. Let's see.
Regio wrote Gay Sarai Febe Gete. Ibrahim's asking for Ibrahim's asking for the code for the plane. We don't know. I don't know.
Is that Ibrahim Ujak Kodu? Yeah.
And then
what's Met saying? I saw a smile on your face. Was that you? You were smiling over there, Kartal, for a minute, I think.
Yeah, and then Kartal Genç is saying that he understands English, but his English isn't good enough to formulate a sentence.
Practice. I'll correct it for you. We'll get your English up to a higher
Hey guys,
level.
It's been a while since I joined last time. There are so many English comments, and Kartal speaks Turkish. Haha.
Oh no! What have we done?
Let's see.
There's.
Tiki says.
I got a plane code
Abraham,
here.
Is Abraham going to be the second striker? Hiç sanmıyorum tek. İkinci forvet olması için çok maliyetli. I just said he's too much money's involved for him to be our second striker. Regio said is Somerville good? Onun hakkında hiçbir bilgim yok, Regio. So I don't have any knowledge of the player Somerville. I don't know if you guys have any knowledge.
And I got the rest from here. No, I don't know anything about him. Adrian Corleone, which is, I guess we got a Godfather fan over here.
I mean,
what about Joao Felix? Can he be our playmaker? If we have a lot of money, I suppose. Yeah, I wouldn't expect any of these types of transfers, to be honest, guys. I don't know what just happened. Suddenly we're getting a lot of interesting rumors
coming tonight. Everyone's excited and they're on.
Yeah,
online.
I guess so.
Yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, guys. Abonne all.
Yep. Nasser. Oh yeah, please. Nasser says Super League clubs often rely on foreign players. Incentivizing or mandating minutes for under 21 domestic players would accelerate growth. Clubs need to invest in their academies. My only argument to that, Nasser, is they should probably do that in the lower leagues, but on the top flight, we want them to have the most competitive teams, making it a challenge for Turks to make those starting lineups so that they can, right? They have to earn those places. They can't just be given shit, because that's what creates an imbalance as far as, I mean, and you weren't here for this, Nasser, but in the old days when we had even more strict rules on foreigners, the result was that we ended up having to spend huge amounts of money on mediocre Turks because, like, you know, you were mandated that you had to play, I forget how many, like 5 starters or whatever it was for a time. And so the result was that, you know, you had Turks who were getting paid for huge sums of money for them to come. It was going to their head. Their egos were blowing out of, getting way out of hand. Their heads were getting gassed. They were becoming, like, in effect, it was deleterious for not just the clubs who had to spend money that, you know, on mediocre players, but then even for the players who had less pressure to earn a spot on those teams, and so they were working less hard. And you just don't need that. Like, it's not a healthy imbalance, is what I would say.
So,
and not just that. I would argue.
Regio said that he doesn't like Joao Felix. He thinks he's a bad player. Let's see, Can 2.0. Betis is trying to lower the cost with the advantage of Anthony. Wants to join Betis, and Man U desperately needs to sell to buy. Regio put an upside down smiley face.
And then Deus Dominus.
About Emre Tezgah, no idea, guys. I don't know if you guys know.
No, he asked did he sign a new contract for Stoke?
Yeah, well,
I don't even know who Emre Tezgah is. And then Khan Tubino, thanks Khan for the Patreon hint. I'm coming. Like Mustrati spins around himself.
By the way, I think
he's catching strays.
Porto were letting go of Deniz Gül as well. I think, like, he's a Turkish striker. that could be a potential option off the bench, and he's tall. By the way, what we were talking about earlier, Sina, with the wages, the inflated wages for Turkish players because of the foreign limit and all that kind of stuff, you could also argue that in turn increased the average wage, which then also is responsible for
has us overpaying for everyone.
Another subscriber, thank you for hitting the subscribe
Ibrahim
button.
Alici subscribed to the channel.
Ibrahim Alici.
I'm telling you guys, it's because Abraham's coming tonight. Everyone's excited. They're all online and coming in the group. So let's see. Khan's talking about thanks Khan for the Patreon hints. I'm coming like Maserati spins around himself. Reggio said Abraham will be the second striker. As we've already said, that won't be the case. Adrian Corleone says Somerville, as far as he's aware, is just that kind of ordinary winger. He says, despite the fact that he's very good, he thinks that for the right wing, rather than a traditional winger, we need someone that cuts inside and is a playmaker. I agree. Sana Catalio Madrid. I fully agree with that.
Who were we talking about? Which player? Because now
Somerville. So they're asking about
I'm lost.
I'm
fully lost track.
We didn't know, and he's saying that he's more of a traditional winger, and he thinks that for the right side we need someone that cuts in and is more of a playmaker like Rashid Ghazal. And I just said that I agree with
definitely. We need creativity for sure, and like we now have hopefully have solved the problem with our presence up top, but we still need to solve the problem with the delivery of good passes and crosses into that area to get the striker to score goals, because at the end of the day, if you don't supply your striker, it's going to be difficult for him to score.
Got it. Got a moth fucking bothering me right now. I just killed it.
So Nasser says that Somerville's a winger at West Ham. They signed him for 29 million. Thanks, Nasser, for the information. Obviously, honestly, I don't really.
Didn't he play for Chelsea, Somerville?
I don't follow the Premier League closely at all these days, man. Like I see like transfer stuff on Twitter.
I'm sure he's like from their academy or something, isn't he, Nasser?
Or was it maybe Man U? I feel like I know what you mean. He's got one of those names that you've seen around. Do you think Storloff is coming? Lars, you're asking a lot about Scandics.
No,
I don't. Now that we've got Tammy Abraham, I don't think there's any chance.
Exactly. Like there's been this talk online, Lars, about is Tammy Abraham gonna be the first striker? Is he gonna be the second striker? Look, I think we just broke our transfer record on this guy.
Lost control of the group chat. Lost control of the chat.
He's 100%. Tammy Abraham is 100% going to be the number one striker. This is the marquee signing. They will, once Ciro Immobile leaves, they'll probably bring in a second foreign striker. For example, Brel Embolo has been name dropped many times from AS Monaco's Swiss international. He could be the second striker, but there's other options, right? I just mentioned Dennis Gül from Porto. He's being let go there. He's tall. He's able to come off the bench, have an impact. Potentially, he's Turkish. But Alexander Sorloth, no chance. He was somebody that the club really, really wanted. He's somebody, of course, in Turkey with a great track record at Trabzonspor. He's somebody that is every transfer window, if one of the big clubs in Turkey needs a good striker, he will always be linked. But he's coming off of a really, really good season
he's too rich for our blood.
Sub for Atletico de Madrid. He's finally, after years of clawing his way up, because I mean he's had like terrible spells or unsuccessful spells in the Netherlands with, I believe, ADO Den Haag, and then unsuccessful spell in Belgium with Agent, unsuccessful spell in the Premier League with was it Queen's Park Rangers, or I don't even remember, or Crystal Palace. I think it was Crystal Palace. So he's had many unfortunate spells. Red Bull Leipzig didn't work out for him either. So he's finally kind of, after the success in Turkey, he's finally now found his groove in Spain, first with Real Sociedad, now with Atletico de Madrid. So I think for him, he wants to take that. He's finally found his niche, so to speak. I don't think he would be open to it. And on top of that, we're paying 15 million now for Abraham. like Sørloth would cost twice that probably, because I think they paid like 32 million for him. And why would they sell a player that just coming off the bench scored more than 20 goals for them? Like, why would you sell that? That doesn't, so there's no chance, especially now.
Guys, why are we talking about Somerville? I don't even know what the fuck is happening.
Someone asked if we knew anything
the
about
chat has like gone wild.
I think he was suggested. I think somebody suggested.
Someone
that
said if we know anything about him, if he'd be suitable, and I said I don't know anything about him. But anyway,
first thing I'm hearing of linking.
Yeah, same. Right.
Yeah, Les Ferdinand, exactly, QPR. And Newcastle United as well, let's not forget. All right, let's get to the comments. Katla, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Yeah, I hand over their duty.
There's quite a lot of stuff here.
Go ahead.
I don't think we can do it all. Can you do it all? Like, it's maybe we let go of this one.
No, just keep it. Why not, right?
Right, so... Tiki Tech saying that Tammy Abraham is bought with sponsorship, but as far as I'm aware, I've not heard anything like that.
No, we're not Galatasaray. We don't have dodgy sponsors like.
I've not heard anything like that. So I don't know where he's got that information from. I don't believe that to be true.
You have to think of it like this: we bought him essentially with money that is projected to come in the next couple of years with the Dikilitas project. Right now, there isn't an immediate influx of money into the club, but in the next 18 to 24 months, there's going to be a lot of extra revenue in the club. I explained this earlier already, but I'll just explain it again. So, roughly 200 million euros, between 150 and 200 million euros is projected to be earned from that. Now, obviously, not all of that is going to come in straight away. But there are going to be potential pre-sales of apartments or whatever, so that's going to already bring in a revenue stream. There's the inclusion, most likely, of the Ziraat Bank in the deal with the Dikilitas project. They'd be given like 8% or whatever, and that is going to get them to diminish our debt to the bank. Right now, we are paying annually $50 million, I believe, in interest fees. So that's 50% of our entire revenue annually. If we can, and the plan of the Dikilitas project is to get rid of all that bank debt, not all the debt, but all the bank debt, so that we don't have to pay interest fees anymore. And once we get rid of that, essentially the club gains €50 million or $50 million extra budget annually. So there's a realistic projection of the club's income increasing in the next couple of years. That's why we are now seeing that, for example, with Jurasek, we loaned him with an option to buy for 7 million and 9 million if we go to the Champions League next summer. So next summer, they're probably already expecting some revenue to come in from Dikilitas. And then Tammy Abraham, yes, we are paying 15 million euros for him, but that is being spread out over installments to be paid in 5 years. So that 15 million euros won't be paid in total until 2030. So it's being spread out a lot. And that's all. And so there's no real need for an external sponsor or anything. And there also hasn't really been anything mentioned of it. It's essentially self-generated, but this is money that we are projected to be generating in the next couple of years. But it's not an unrealistic projection. It's realistic, as long as the project goes through, of course, which it has been approved. And the Turkish government is involved with Emlak Konut. So that will happen. It will happen, and it will generate a significant amount of money. Rough estimations between 150 on the low end and 200 million euros on the high end for the club. Please continue, Gertan.
So what was that?
Please continue with the comments.
So one problem with the comments, Khan, is that almost all of the questions now are asking us to rehash stuff that we discussed at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. So
folks, if you're just tuning in, this is our almost four of our three and change.
4,
We're into the fourth hour.
Yeah.
We had a small technical difficulty
definitely,
in the middle, so
yeah.
I'll have to cut that out, and I will cut that out. But
yeah, go back, check out the episode because we've covered a lot of these questions. We've talked about Gedson, Adrian Corleone in depth. Actually, we've talked about Dikilitas, Edium. I've already lost track. We lost a few comments because they just keep coming in hot and heavy.
Hit the subscribe button, guys, please.
Onur Guner says, what do you think of Rashford? Is it possible? We've already answered that in a previous conversation.
Impossible. Financially impossible. 20 million euros a year is what he earns right now, and nets that's like 11 or something. So it's not impossible, but you also need to think. I mean, Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe are paying players 10 million a year. In theory, Beşiktaş could do that too. But it's not wise, right? It's not smart. Beşiktaş do not have the same financial means as those two have right now. And you have to think as well, like, Man United are going to want 35-40 million euros for him as well. So, no. not realistic, I think. Like, 1% chance.
Cartel, you want to do any other comments there? Or?
I think, Sinan, you're quite right in saying we've already discussed all of this. Anyone that wants to hear what we've said, they can just rewind the episode and watch back. Though we are very grateful for all the comments and the viewership, so thank you very much, guys. But as Sinan said, we're in our fourth hour, man. So I think we're getting a bit fatigued.
Yeah.
I've been tired for a while. So in tomorrow afternoon, once the episode is done processing, essentially, I will add Turkish subtitles. So for those of you who maybe your English isn't great,
you just can't understand the accent,
or you can't understand his juicy Scottish accent. Just wait until tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, usually around 2-3 in the afternoon, the episode is done processing. And then we can add Turkish subtitles. They are auto-generated, so they won't be 100% accurate, but you'll get the gist of it. It'll be easier to understand. But please, guys, if you're new, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification. It would be great to see you again in our future episodes. Unfortunately, our special guest, Nima Tavallaey, couldn't be here today. He had an emergency with his mom. Unfortunately, had to take her to the hospital. But he did tell me that he would be up for recording tomorrow or something. So I will talk to him and probably to somebody else in the future. I'm trying to line up some interviews. So we'll see if we can get other guests to talk about Tammy Abraham in the upcoming days. So stay tuned to the channel. Consider subscribing on YouTube. Become a member of the channel. Then you get these cool little Beşiktaş badges next to your name. It's just 99 cents per month. And consider joining us on Patreon as well for just $1.99. You get lots of extra content, including Sinan Schwarding's monthly Schwarding report, where he goes over the performances of the players, the coaching staff, the board, the president. He grades them all for what they did in the past month. That is coming up really soon. And of course, we have the VIP podcast, which we talk about all kinds of stuff there, like transfer rumors and stuff like that. So lots of extra content on the VIP side of things as well. But you don't even need to be a VIP member. If you just want to become a free member on Patreon, you can actually gain access to a post with our invite link to our WhatsApp group chat. We have about, 20, 25 regular posters in there. We talk daily, 24 hours a day about Beşiktaş. There's people from all over the world, Australia, the United States, Nasser is from London, I think. We have people from Dubai. We have people from... where else do we have people from, guys? Like all over the place. Finland.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Netherlands.
The Netherlands, Germany, France, Switzerland, Italy. I don't know. Everywhere. So come and join that international community. It's great. It's a really fun community. There's always good conversation there. News gets posted in there, like if something new comes out, transfer rumors, stuff like that. Like instantly, usually somebody posts it in there, so you're always up to date. You don't have to hit the refresh button all the time on Twitter. Somebody else is guaranteed. Somebody in the group is doing that already, and he or she will post the news in the group. So come and join us.
Yeah, I'll take over. So quickly, who was that? Khan 2.0 said he's offered to dub my voice in the Turkish version of the podcast. I feel like you should take Khan's, right? As his 2.0. Obviously, Kartal Genç would be taking Kartal's voice. So they're gonna have a Sinan in the. You're gonna need a Genç Sinan or something of that sort to step in for me.
Once we get to the point where we can do it with AI, I'm gonna give you like a Bernie Sanders voice.
Hey! It's huge! It's huge!
And I'm gonna have the greatest voice in the world. I'm going to be amazing, and everything's gonna be fantastic. And Beşiktaş is the greatest team in the world. We're gonna win the Champions League under my leadership. It will all be easy.
You're Trump. I'm Bernie.
I'm Trump. You're Bernie, and Kartal can be Nigel Farage or something.
Boris Johnson.
I'm not being Nigel Farage, man.
Yeah, good.
Elon Musk. You can be Elon Musk.
Oh no! Oh no! Anyway, it was a pleasure seeing all these lovely new names in the chat. Someone said we should do a Turkish podcast since there's all these people speaking Turkish. On the other hand, you guys should all speak English. Practice your English. There are a lot of Turkish podcasts for Beşiktaş already, so we got our corner of the internet sorted. Anything else to say? I don't think so. Except, and Khan 2.0 has already stolen my thunder on this. He wrote out what I'm supposed to yell with lots of exclamation marks too. So, Khan, you're really going for my job here. It looks like. That said, it's important for me to say this, given that we're going into the preseason. In fact, this is probably our last, right? Our next podcast, we're going to be previewing our first friendlies of the summer.
Let's hope
we're going to have some football to watch.
Friendlies are so I hope we're talking about a new transfer.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's true.
But
with that said, do we have any information? So, real quick, our first friendly match is on July 10th against St. Pölten, which is, I assume, an Austrian team. Are we in Austria, our camp? I think it is, right?
Yeah, I think so, Kartal, are we in Austria?
So,
what was that, sorry?
Are we in Austria?
Is our camp in Austria?
Yeah, right.
The camp's in Austria this year,
Yeah.
no Slovenia this year.
Right.
Back to the usual Austria.
Yeah, good.
Do you think we'll be on? You think they'll play the St. Pölten friendly on our YouTube channel this year, or are they gonna broadcast it?
It just depends, man. We'll see when it happens.
If it's not broadcasted, if it's broadcasted, you'll have a link. If it's not broadcasted, they're very likely to put it on the Beşiktaş YouTube channel. So somehow we'll probably be able to watch
join
it.
the WhatsApp group. If there are links, they'll be posted there. You know?
Deus Dominus, do we have any schedule for future streams? Typically, we do our episode every Monday, although during the summer, we've been very flexible and fluid. I mean, we basically skipped a week because there was nothing to talk about. And now there's so much to talk about. So that's kind of how it goes in the summer. So in the summer, be flexible. We'll always, follow us on social media.
Join the WhatsApp group. It's the best
Twitter,
place, you know.
Yeah, join the WhatsApp group. Follow us on Patreon, Blue Sky. We're all over the freaking place. And there you'll be notified when we're going to be going live. So, find us online, and there you'll, follow us on YouTube. Click the notification button, and then you'll be notified as well. Whenever we're going live. Yeah. Although that's really kind of last minute.
I think the WhatsApp group is the single best place. We always give people a heads up when we're going to go live. The links are posted in there, But
you have to practice your English, folks. Sorry.
You can speak to
anyway.
in there.
In the
group chat? I don't know. That doesn't happen, does it?
We can use
Don't do this to me, cunt.
You can just use Meta AI to translate it if you want to.
That's another process. I honestly skip things because I don't like. Yeah, you have to highlight this. Fuck that. Anyway, check us out. Definitely join us in the group chat or in the WhatsApp chat. Follow us, like us here on YouTube, and obviously like all of our posts on social media. Follow, subscribe, check out our Patreon, subscribe to our special YouTube account, premium account, all of that good stuff. And as always, let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everybody! Show me the list. Let's go. Ozkan, Mr. No Comment, Savachi. Nathan, not a Bobert, Coach Davis. Finish, not a Swedish kebab. Tristan, Berkey Gray. Michael Perry. Umer, Mr. Positive, Kunal. Dara, the Irishman, Hensi. Mario, 1 and a 2 and a 3, Vargas. Niall Tariq. We need information about this guy. Sebastian, not a sporting director, Heino. Punisher, the vigilante Turk. Nasser, Mr. Manu / Beşiktaş. And of course, the indubitable, indefatigable, indomitable, the financier himself, the Dutch Eagle. Peace out, everybody.